Um, Let me just go into this with the gloves off, because there's always something, right? Like at the end, it must be the yang, right? And actually what I'm going to reveal today is how to break that cycle, because it's getting a bit, boring. And it's just because sometimes we're engaged in such a hyperdimensional aspect of our creation, we don't even know what we're doing. Like if you think about how people move throughout the day and how most of us move, if we don't have a real blueprint, it's like, okay, what am I going to do today? There's no real purpose. Like, okay, this is what I do. This is what I'm working towards. This is how I'm going to get there. This is why I'm going to get there. So these are the questions that we will look for our spiritual instructors and our gurus, or our leaders, our mentors, or whatever to answer. And what happens is that, you know, I've always still seen myself as young. Now that I'm getting older, and like I'm about to hit 40 here. So now I guess I'm going to eventually get to the point where I'm going to be the elder that's giving the information, because I was looking to the elders and looking to the information that was out there to get me acclimated to what I was experiencing in this grand climb up to my ascent, right? So whether that's, again, you got information from secret societies, you have old books about, you know, magical powers from ancestors, you got witchcraft and warlocks and voodoo, and you have all these different systems that proclaim to actually understand how to work the machinations of this existence and get you to where whatever you desire, you receive, right? That's the whole height of magic, is when you want something, you can just have it when you want it, right? And so that's why things like the laws of attraction and the manifestation laws and all these things become so instrumental these days for people to have. That's why people are gravitating towards that, because they're like, oh, you know, if I can find a way to manifest whatever I want, then that's what I want, right? And then never asking themselves the question, what do you really want? Because if you were in front of someone that can answer all questions, but you just needed to present the question, what question would you really ask? And would the question, or would the answer that you get take you to another level, or would it just lead you into another question? Okay. So with that being asked, I would first address, let's say, for instance, if I got to ask something that had answers to everything, the first question I would ask it is, how could I operate? Like, how could I do things that in a way that it will always be in my favor, especially from what I've learned on Earth so far. I've learned on Earth so far that you can take a ball with all your strength and throw it at something. And sometimes it could be the equivalent of that ball hitting a wall right away, and then that ball hitting you in the face. It's like what we call instant karma. It's like all the strength that you just put in something, it could just come right back and hit you right in the face right away in this realm if we don't know how to direct our energy and direct our power. Likewise, if we're depending on others to give us an idea of where we should be directing our energy and power, and we happen to make the mistake at choosing the wrong person or the wrong message to do that with, then we can oftentimes find ourselves imbalanced. Why? Because someone else's math is not necessarily your math. Math is known as Ma'at. Ma'at must be kept balanced in all the ancient traditions. So it's saying you got to keep balance. Then on the temple wall, it says, know thee, know yourself. And then that's coming from a Kemetic glyph that means the same thing. Know yourself. Not know everybody else. Know yourself, then do your own Ma'at. Keep yourself balanced, because you have your own uniqueness. And you will be able to prepare yourself during this life, if you can do that, for the great afterlife, which never ends. So the whole purpose here on Earth is really the actual afterlife process. You want to have a great experience here. You want to have a great time. You want to really work with happiness. You want to grow into harmonics, and then you want to start expanding, and then you want to keep moving from there. Anything else that is contrary to that, you really don't know. Meaning that we're being taught things, and things are being misconstrued so much. We're being taught things that are just not true. That's like why our whole misconceptions about what evil is and darkness is so illusory, because we don't even know. Like it's a lot to calculate. It's a lot to compute, and we would even need the experience to fully get an idea of it. So what is all of this? What is this machination, and why are we struggling so much with it? Meaning that some have given up and they just say, oh, just relax and go with the flow and see where it takes you. And then as Somebody said recently, only dead fish go with the flow. The reality is, if you just go with the flow of this, it will have you doing all types of things. I don't care what your story was. If you go downtown and go with the flow, you'll see where the flow will eventually take you. It will take you where it wants. So if you don't choose to, especially now, take that wheel of life and really drive your consciousness into the next level of your expansion, at minimum, you're looking at a repeat. At minimum, you're looking at things are not going to probably go as well as they did this time because lessons still needed to be learned. And that's at minimum. The story could be even more nefarious and even more malicious about how our own consciousness and the fears that we experience when we can't bring our own light and when we can't vibrate to a certain level, and if we can't motivate ourselves, when we get into a space where we would now be tested to have to do that, meaning all of our governors are off, all the protections off, mommy and daddy are gone, now you're outside of the womb again, are you going to ball up gaga goo goo baby and know nothing at all and put your thumb in your mouth? Or are you going to be going into that with full awareness that that stage itself is but another preliminary for another phase as you're expanding and becoming back to who you truly are, which is the original. Now, I got to explain this because this is a bit to stomach, as I said before. The original, the reason why I asked the question earlier about, do you believe an image of something has power, which 97% of the listeners of today said yes, they believe, and only actually one person said no, and they may have just slipped on the button and still trying to figure out how do I roll that back? And it's because we have this notion that, yeah, sometimes images of things can be powerful, but let me break it down for you. Now, first of all, we saw the indigenous talk about at times that taking pictures was not a good idea for them. They didn't like that whole thing. You take an exact image of me and then you put it, they felt like that kind of removed their power, right? So instead of just like going with the mystic mumbo jumbo, sometimes that could happen still when even, you just see yourself appear on a 2D thing and you're trying to just figure this out. What kind of wizardry is this? Fast forwarding right until now, what I can still say is what is known there is that there's an essence of power that has been transferred. Now, whether it is going to increase the person's power or decrease, I believe is based on quite a few different things, like what was also in that picture, right? Like if a person having this great time, generally every time they look at that picture, they're like, yeah, boy, that was that day. And so it increases their energy. But if there's something wild going on or they're in a weird place, it may do something else, right? But we're still following the line here that somehow pictures and energy connect. So what happened is I was presented a question that got me on a sequence of pondering several things. And one of those questions had a lot to do with, well, because I can't even paraphrase the question. I'm not even sure because my sequence of questions come across really weird, but it started having me think about when you make a replica of something, a copy, does that copy actually have any power? And so I pondered this for a while because I know a lot about resonance. So when you make dimensionally accurate objects, like dimensionally accurate pyramids made out of resonated materials that are the same geometrics as the certain pyramids around the world, have a connection to each other that is similar to the same connection from magnetics, okay? So the shapes themselves, the geometries themselves actually cause a magnetic connection. And because of this, actually, let me just cut to the chase here. I had like a really strong experience when early in the days when I was studying to find God, I came across these objects called talismans. And I spoke about this in certain scenarios and certain courses and things, but I'll just bring it into scope so we can see how it connects. That talismans were basically pieces of paper that were inscribed with either sacred symbols during certain times, using certain ink, with certain parchment, and could bring about these miraculous results. miraculous and intentional in that you had no clue of how this would work, but somehow it did. So I came in as a skeptic. I came in as a skeptic because I said, you know, how can a piece of paper affect something? But I followed the instructions because I was actually in need of a breakthrough, and I was actually looking to see if I could expand and meet this being known as God, because I needed to talk to God about some things that I had gotten myself into. And since I happened to be reading this book, and it seems like the people that were involved in the book had some connection to God and had said these talismans would be a connection, you know, I wasn't looking for like to have somebody fall in love with me or to have all the money in the world. That wasn't like my query, but there were talismans for that in there. This one was just about, I just want to meet God and have certain levels of wisdom to be able to communicate with God. Okay. So I went through the whole process. The process was like, you know, a few days of fasting, you know, making sure that this thing was pointed in a certain direction, you know, being observant of this particular energy coming across the constellation, etc. And within 3 days, it was done. Okay. And then when I was done, I was like, well, what do I do with it? There was like no instructions that were saying like what to do next. Like, do I type run or what should I do with it? So because it was getting towards the evening, I was like, let me just put it under my mattress then. When I woke up, or I guess flew out of my sleep, I was not actually in this world anymore. I was actually in another subplane in a room with several locks on the doors. Now, I'm not going to reiterate completely the story of what happened. It would just bring me to the point of today of realizing an ode to what a piece of paper can do. That somehow that process unlocked a different world that I was able to get into with the astral body. So needless to say, I didn't make any more talismans after that, but I always understood that there was a deep level of power that I still needed to figure out how did that even work. And as I started realizing and knowing more and more about metaphysics, I started seeing exactly how that works. It works on resonance. It worked on the intentions that I put in there, the fervor. Like I really believed actually that this was going to work. It's funny how I needed it to work. That's the reality of things. That's the intention. I need this to work. So, you know, if you're just back there as a skeptic, like, let me examine, it ain't going to work for you. But if you actually have some intentions for it to work, it starts forming itself accordingly, like a lot of the stuff that you're going to see today. So what happened is that I started realizing, and I came to the full knowledge of that there was a two-dimensional world, that there was a two-dimensional resonance. Just like we're in 3D, there's a 2D, and it's flat. But everything there, even though it's flat, it actually contains the energy and the essence and all of that. It's almost like it's a world. It's almost as if it's alive. So then I started thinking the other day, since I've known this knowledge already and certain questions were presented and the wheels started turning, is it possible that I could be an image? And the reason why I got onto this is because I started I keep getting this effect sometimes where I feel like, some call it the fluoride stare, but I feel like that members of the reality that I'm around are sometimes glazed over. It's like I could be talking to them or trying to interact with them or in a store around them, and it just kind of appears like I can almost like wave my hand in front of their face and they would just be like almost like they're not real. And I was fascinated by this phenomenon. My brother Halo was here also, and he started bringing up again photography and the whole process of bringing a photo from the dark room into proper exposure and that process, right? And I had to chime in about that because I had studied that very deeply about the phosphorus and the different fluids that are used to bring those exposures back in, because I once thought that there was something magical maybe hidden within the process, you know, just through logic of trying to figure out what is this. And I find it so amazing that we are actually hyperdimensional in this group, because we started this project called the Projector. And it now brings us into realizing that the reason why a projector is so effective is because this is just an image. And what I mean by image is that everything here is just a copy of the original. And this is interesting because when you really think of it, since the original is everything combined, when you start splitting it up, all you do is you just get slides, layers, right? So in retrospect, what we're really running through is like a movie. where a lot of the beings that we're encountering are actually really illusions themselves, because they haven't actually chose to be original, unique. They've chose to basically just be a slide. So let's dig into this a little bit more, because I have more proof that this is in fact what is going on. Now, the interesting thing about this, and the reason why it could become very liberating, is because once you understand the magic and once you know the process, then it can be undone. But if you're forever in the illusion, if you're forever on the other side of the mirror, if you're forever in this 2D world where it doesn't seem like nobody is really digging into the solutions too deep, like, are we going to get some results here or blow up or something? Because the other day there was, I guess, what was that? Is that Saturday? Yeah, I guess Saturday for me. I got to look at my calendar now. I got a calendar of all the glorious activities, and I got a timeline because the chrono is really coming into effect, like the chronological aspects of mapping everything that's happening here. But it's just the awareness that this Friday, I believe, and I'm still looking for a calendar. I'm just like, I really don't obey the laws of time anymore. There was an eclipse, a lunar eclipse. And during that lunar eclipse here in Costa Rica, there were also two very strong earthquakes, just two very strong earthquakes. Didn't break anything, didn't, knock out the power even, but really strong. And it's like a sign, like it really like put me back into the scope of all I know, and was like shaking me up real quick, like, yo, wake up a little bit more, because you got to understand certain things from certain levels now. I need you to start asking yourself the questions. Turn the wheel. Let's turn the wheel of the projector and let's see this movie again that you're living in. So that way you can start playing these scenes back to yourself, so you can start knowing what's really important, because you need to get balanced. You need to get Ma'at. Now, Earth needs it bad too. Remember, Earth already got that, 23.6, whatever, 26.5, whatever degree wobble going on, right? And so she's already imbalanced. She needs help with that, or he's already in, whatever floats your boat. I think for men, it's fascinating us to think that Earth is a woman and she needs our help. So maybe for women, if you think it's a man and it needs your help, that may float your boat. But either way, it's off kilter. So it needs more beings to actually speed up, because just like a top, when you speed up, your centrifugal force and all that so high, you're perfect. Right? And the more things that are doing that, the more it'll correct Earth. Now, of course, if there's imbalances, there's tons of imbalances going on, just because people are not really balancing out what they're doing either way. So because those imbalances, you know where the imbalances come from? It's Earth's bank book. Earth is just the worst at banking with the system that it's using now. It's not really recognizing the people that are actually doing something. It's not like the people who are giving us our food are getting paid the less. Like all of those things, the people who are sitting back like fat cats riding jet planes all day are doing absolutely nothing. They're like sitting on millions of dollars. The books are imbalanced. So that's the imbalance right there. So in retrospect, when you look at quantum solutions, you got to be able to get into frameworks like that, which we can. But the first thing to do is to get in your own framework. But also to realize some really deep knowledge here about the mysticism that we're being involved in. And I'll say it like that because a lot of people just reject the whole thing altogether and just are like, you know what, I'm not a part of this, this is Earth, or they come up with all sorts of dilemmas in their own consciousness. But the truth is, if you're standing here, it's going to affect you. So because it's going to affect all of us, then we must address it, the elephant in the room, and meaning, what is going on? So I'm elaborating in every detail of exactly what's happening. So because we were created in an image. Now let me explain this imagery to you, because some imagery is different. This is why when you start trying to find a unified system, you got some people working on 4, some people working on 7, some are on 9, some are on 13, some are on 20, some are on 26, some are on 72. It's like, whoa, everybody's jumping on different aspects and saying this is the system. And then when you say, what is the color to that? What is the frequency to that? What is the metal to that? They're like, it's this. And then you find when you look at another chart that it doesn't match. And then you even find that some of the energies that were on the top are now on the bottom. And then it's like, ugh. Does anybody know or have a manual to the body? No. All these geniuses, all these gurus, all of these spiritual teachers, these priests, all these, self-proclaimed prophets, None of them has sat down and agreed yet. What is the real unified system that we're on? A course like the cosmos. Why do we know it exists? Because if you notice the nature around you, you will notice the butterflies come out at a certain time. The bees come out, the trees get green, then they get brown, the clouds come in, the rain comes out. There's like a clock going on here. And it's so precise that if you measured the entire cycle and then map right to the day that it began again, you would know what a real year is. Maybe it's not 365 days. Maybe it's not even 360. Maybe it's more like 372.3. But nobody's actually trying to figure that out, because this is why they talked about, okay, well, occultism, you know, like people were fascinated with occultism back in the past, and then they got all caught up in it, and then they doomed their own world, right? So that's kind of like some of the explanations, and I don't doubt that that happened. But I will say for sure, if technology was then the alternative, so we removed all the spiritual stuff, and then we bought technology and we bought innovations so people can stare at their cell phones all day. Is that what we're talking about? This would be like if you're talking like an archmason or something who's going to just brag about that all the rights that we have now were pretty much put in play by the Freemasons that built their structures around the world, their laws and their legal systems and their freedom and all that kind of stuff. So that's what they're going to want to get into you and drill into you about if you're asking them. But yet and still, they cannot explain to you why we were made in the image of something. Okay, because look at the wordplay. In the Bible, God says, let us make man in our own image, in our own likeness. Okay, so when you're doing in that kind of thing, and when you're speaking like that, that means that, because I told you that God in the Bible is actually a king, an old king. So it's not even like you don't got to go as far as thinking you're talking to Saturn or thinking you're talking to Aurora or anything like that. You just need to think about an old deified king literally saying, I'm going to make them in my image. And what I'm going to do that is all written right here. And part of that is changing the language. Let us go down and confuse them and put enmity between them, change their language, right? So spells start going into work here. The next stage is that the image, like I'm going to make them like me, not like they are. So that means that anytime you start messing with images and projectors, you got to start controlling the days of the week. You got to start controlling the gods. You got to start controlling the math, the numbers, the letters. You got to start controlling those things before you can get in control of someone's real world, their real soul. So when you ask yourself today, though, have these institutions been able to accomplish this? Absolutely. When you watch, like, you know, when you're a quantum thinker, you can do things like watch the Vietnam documentary on Netflix and watch how the same people that are operating under the Nazi regime flip over into the US and then start attacking people in Vietnam, then flip over into another country, start attacking. So you watch how this thing just flips through everything, taking on different names and using the same tactic, divide in the middle. It always cuts everything right in half first, that first blow, north to south. Notice how many places where you really have a north to south beef, like even North Korea, South Korea, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, North America, South America, and many tenses, all the norths and souths. Why is there always a beef? North India, South India, right? Like, why is there always these beefs? Why also do the darker people have a tendency to be in the South and the lighter people in the North, like it's on a caste system? Where does all that come from? It comes from pyramid geometry. It's geometric. It's geomancy. Because one of the mysteries that I just figured out was that all the pyramids that you see in the world right now, they are not original. They are not the original items that were on those areas that you're looking at. They are built on top of something. They are built on top of what would basically be for us our portals. Okay? Just keep going with this and realize what I'm bringing to you. Now, all the sacred sites in the world, as Freemasonry talks about, the sacred sites in the world, what they do is they try to get those sacred sites and either put temples or churches or something there because they know that there's an energy that people have been going to that area for the longest, right? Now, I'm going to rewind you through history. People have been going to temples for the longest. Now, many people, because they gotten into the external sun, they believe that the purpose was to go into the temple. It was always what was going into the temple that you should really look at, like people coming into the temple. But it was actually what was coming out of the temple. Because what you had is that temples only had priests in them. So you had priests going in, and then what was coming out in that priest was what was coming out of that portal. Okay? And I'll bring that to you one more time. People think about, oh, let me go into church and get myself together. Let me go into the Buddhist temple and get myself together and pray and get myself spiritually fulfilled. Where that comes from is that in the old days, you would go to the sacred sites, and then when you would pray to your ancestors, they would feel you. Like there would be an old ancestor that wasn't using a physical body, be like, you know what, this lad's kind of like me. You know what, I'm going to jump into him. And they will become spirit-filled, their own ancestors. And then they will come out and they will have the big eyes for a minute. And then right when you walk out of the temple, there is the accoutrements, the Wa staff, the sphinxes, different things that you're going to need to deal with earth plane as it still stands right now. What we're not seeing because we're sometimes too many layers behind in the illusion. Okay? So continuously going with this to realize again that what is coming out of the temple is what is most necessary for us to see. We should also see that, okay, now let's say we try to go a little bit further. What is all of this? Why are people going to the temple? Why do they come out different? Why do they feel like that's a place that they can really connect with things? What is it? It's the womb, okay? Duh. It's the womb itself. It's the place where souls come in and out. It's the hole, the chasm. And of course, you know, you're laying by the hole, no telling what's going to happen. So people just started building these. It was like they started worshiping the hole, basically. That's like the goddess worship in itself. It's like, this is where we all come in and this is where we go out. This is sacred. Let's build this. Let's build this. And that's how that started. That's how the acupuncture or the chakra points of the earth were found, because real souls were coming out of them. So now when you fast forward into the future, pyramids are on top of all the places souls come from. I don't have to be a genius to get what could happen to a soul if it comes out in a pyramid rather than coming out in its original design. It's probably going to come out thinking that something's on top of it, that is in this rat race trying to get to the top versus expanding, that, you know, it's got to believe in something that's up there, that it's really down here since it started off at the beginning. It's going to, pyramidal shit basically is going to happen to that being, for better or for worse. Now, I have facts, evidence proving, like even in the Aztec country, they had an earthquake, right? Just recently, and it cracked open one of the pyramids, and then they found all these other rooms, and they're looking at us in the room. They're like, the rocks from here don't match at all this structure that's on top of it. And then it's happening in a lot of places around the world, that the pyramids that are built, they're built on top of our ancestors' reincarnation points. Okay, so let's desist for a minute, because that would get us into university semester 3 too deep. But just to realize once again that then when something says, let us make it in our image, we still have to realize that these are copycats, okay? So they're getting this from somewhere else. So I would desist on talking about the one who gave you English, the one who gave you all these different laws, rules, edicts, decrees, bulls, their marriages, and all this shit that they've concocted, their oaths, their pacts, their rituals, in their language, their mysticism, their vows, their owls, their tones, their nouns, all of that you've learned. I'll desist, because I'm going to show you how to get that under control, but I would desist on that to highlight for one moment that there has to be an original, because they are copiers. They are copies of copies of copies is what you have going on here, right? So when we think about the original, though, the reason why all this can go on is that the original is so powerful that even an image of it can do something. We are images of it. We can do something, and we're not even completely into the original aspects yet. So imagine what we can do. One moment. So this is why in the ancient texts, people don't get it. They say, oh, then they took the body of Nindinsumud, whatever. And then they formed in fascists and created everything. And people are like, that sounds like somebody just did like Play-Doh with a monster, like, and took blood, and I don't get it. And it's like, it's all images. When you take something, however it's done, like through refraction, and they got enough, refraction, mirrors, suns, whatever. When you reflect something, it breaks it down, and then it becomes an image, but it's still animate. That's the magic. Okay, that's what creates magic. That's the disconnect point for a lot of people. They don't get that just a picture of something actually has power. And that, in fact, the more powerful whatever that thing is you have the picture of, the more powerful that image is. But there is one more key. Belief. And then the transition of belief into knowing. To even believe it. Okay, that's why I say belief first, because I've met people who don't believe they have a soul. They don't believe they have a spirit, and they operate as such, and thus they don't. To be honest, like the way they carry on, they don't. Because there's another part of this that if we don't tap into certain parts of the image, if we're not aware of the original, then it does not exist for us, because we don't exist anyway. As an illusion, we don't. We exist only as originals. That's the only real existence. Because, see, when you're giving me a copy, it's like you're giving me a counterfeit. It's like you can't pass that off to me as the real thing. Like I can't pass this version of self off as the magnitude of me. It's just not, you can't sell me this. No, there's greater. That's why I can't never be put into some kind of box or dome or whatever kind of geometry they want to throw me in next and just say, hey, this is the God, or this is who we should all believe and worship. It's like, that doesn't make any sense where I'm from. I'm not wired that way. You know, I'm here to show you something different, because now I have more proof that someone or a group, a large group of them probably, have created another image. And that image, it functions like a glove, an actual GUI itself, to control what we truly are naturally. Something that literally fits around who we are as, well, not completely, but enough to get grips on us. Okay? And now, in having the knowledge of how to undo that, or actually to gain control of that, because most are not even being controlled anymore. Everything is on automaton. Like that whole AI-based system is already functioning. The laws and the rules that have been put forth through the ritual and the magic is actually what's binding many people. They're stuck. They know what they should be doing, but they can't do it. They even know where they should go, and they just find themselves held by invisible barriers. It's like, man, you know you should move on, or man, you know you should expand, or you know you need to stop doing that. And then the person is just like stuck by invisible barriers in their mind. It's, I just can't stop. That's an invisible barrier. So how do you break that down? Okay. Now let's keep going with this. So now you've discovered that this is indeed an image. It is a talisman. Remember, the talisman is more what you're talking about. I don't want you to think you're just in Photoshop. But if you want to take it there, this is layers in Photoshop. Like there's levels to this shit. I kept telling everybody, look, yeah, I know we hit a point here, but I still think there's more. And even when I used to go on these diamond tree journeys, when I would look, what my eye would do is it would just, I guess, like I said, they said it was the hawk beak of Heru. I was like, all right, but shit, what is it? You haven't explained anything to me. And I could see the layers in the reality. And they said, see, you have that ability. That's why you have vision. You could see very far, and you could see all the pieces. And now I'm learning that all those pieces are actually all the layers, all the scripts, all the characters, right? And then they're all images of the original actually functioning and alive, because the original is that powerful. And then all we have to realize is how to upload ourselves back into being original. And then boom, bada bing, boom, pow, here we go. So here it is. Now remember, so then of course now, so that's what was going on, because the beat goes on, the drama continues. That's what was going on. People were trying to put themselves back in the image of the original. And they were actually progressing. That's why there was a tower that had, remember they say, oh man, you know, he's bringing this tower and they helping each other, they loving each other. This shit ain't gonna be long before they realize how to get out. This is even what some other being on the planet is saying. Knowing more about what the confinements are and things, and seeing the progression of those who survived after the deluge going to their next stage. This is even happening right now. History keeps repeating itself. But this time, we become the masters. We are the time lords of the whole thing. So what happens next is to realize is first, people were on their dean. Like they were like, the whole purpose of being here, like these people build entire cities to just configure themselves to get to the next stage. And it's not long though, because that's not everybody's agenda. And this is what we have to realize. It's like it smacks you in the face sometimes. It's like, not everybody is like you. That's what unique means. Not everybody actually wants to see things go well. Some beings want to see what it looks like when it's destroyed. Some beings want to see what it looks like when we turn it upside down. You got all different types of thoughts in the originals. Okay? So because of that, you have a situation where another system is erected, a dream within a dream, as they call it. It's like layers within layers of this shit. Now, I have pictures showing the Royal Society, showing images of how they do it, which we weren't able to interpret then, but now I know what exactly they're referring to, so I do have those images. But just very precisely, it's just the realization that, again, when you control a person's language, which is how they think, and you control their days of the week and their time, what they think time is. In definitions, that's already too deep. If you let somebody control all that, that's already too deep. So that's how their glove works. It works through their arts. It works through all of the stuff that they created within their structure. Now you have more elaborate structures, like the US is a hell of an elaboration of a structure. Because if you can understand what even was the agenda, it's like, we should be done with a race war. Like, think about it. These people brought all these Polish people and all these people over here to the US even, got them all riled up, got them all in the military, and then sent them over to fight some other people that they didn't even know. They were even like kids and like trying to figure out why are they even there. And this is what we are dealing with here, right? That's why we got to get it under control. Now, what was built? And I'm going to show some screen shares here so you can see, because I know some are like, okay, you keep talking about stuff, but show me some, show me. So I'm going to show you something really quick here. But just remember, what we're doing now is we are mapping the focal points of the beam. Okay. Now, when the projector, you just like a projector, it's got that beam. So when we know the focal points of where those lenses are, that's how we change reality. Okay. It looks like magic to everybody else, but what you did is you went and found the focal point of the lens and you changed it. Okay. So the big confusion that has been happening here. Let me share the screen. Hopefully somebody got some recording going on over there. My stuff going in, going out. They mad about it. They mad. It's too late. I told you. It's not going to take long. Like young Ram is going to find out what's happening. Like, I'm going to run through this. Like, I find this reality to be so strange. It's like everything is just so correct, like we're supposed to be. Yet nothing is fucking going on. Like, nobody really can answer the straight questions. And then when you start digging into stuff, like finally my beam has gotten around to this. To be honest, like I always get inundated with all sorts of stuff to do. And I'm still going to accomplish that. But how much time I have to actually focus on this kind of stuff, like I just believe personally, I have a lot of ancestors. I have a lot of people. Like I believe that the souls and the spirits, even of the people that are here on the line, the people who have been with the resistance from time to time, the people who have been with secret energy, that all their guides and all of that are all here. And they encourage me to like, keep going. We can just go over that thing again, like come around one more time. Because see, what happens is, have you ever noticed that when you gain a large level of awareness, if you go back and you read something or see something that you thought you knew about before you had that level of awareness, obviously you read deeper into it now, something talks to you even deeper. And it's because, that's why I said nothing actually exists beyond what you're aware of. You don't think you have a soul? You have a soul. You don't think you have a spirit? You don't have a spirit. the magnitude of what you can think, you already are capable of doing. That's what they call that to us starts to define the word called limitless, right? So I'm just showing you the mechanics of how this works, because you got something. If you want to imagine how powerful you are, even being an image, it's already animated. Even being an image, you're already off the chain. Even being an image, you're running around, you're cussing sometime, you're having a great time, you're going through maximum pleasure, you're even just being the image. So when you come into total awareness of who you are, which there is clearly an agenda, I'm showing you today, as you're seeing on my screen, hold on real quick, let me make my picture big. There is an agenda, baby. And I don't know who or what or why or where, and I don't care. All I know is I'm dipping. And those who are with me, we're on to the next stage. So check out what happened. So what happened was, obviously, there's been a lot of simplicity happening with the network. I've been looking at some of the simple things and seeing how powerful it is for us, and noticing at times when some of those things are missing. Let me go over here with it. For instance, now when we're developing this network, and I say we're because it is collective, and what happens is that I've been working with this network for 9 years, okay? Adding things, working to really put the major things in there that I think are major. But this last upgrade, which I've been on for about 4 months, of all the different tools that I've created and put into play, and there's a group that is now formed, and we're working together on getting things done. And these creations have been on an entirely different level, but they've been speaking to us in a certain way. It's like, if you're willing to come out here, we'll show you. Like, I'll tell you the truth. Like, some people, they're always wondering, like, what are you doing? Or it's just the ability to make the thought, the action, to pursue it all the way, to actually see the physical result. Like, if this is true, then we should be seeing something. Like, if there's progress, we should be seeing that progress. If there's communication, we should see the results of that communication. So I've been doing a lot of communicating because I need to know. You won't hit me with an eclipse and 2 earthquakes without me asking some questions, okay? Like, I'm not going to have the entire ground underneath me shaking hard and not ping a question to the higher self, like, what's good? I mean, you caught your ring? Yeah, I need you to step it up a little bit because you're on time, but I just love to do you like that. It's like, geez, man, give me a break. You see, I'm like full throttle. But anyway, it starts communicating me, higher self, together about simple stuff that keeps us unified. For instance, this calendar, which is now at secretenergy.com/global calendar or global-calendar, cosmic-calendar also. Actually, and this goes live at a certain point, you can have links to it. I send links to it. People have links to it already. Some people see links in some of the Facebook videos, so they have access to this already. There's a new Facebook video, or excuse me, YouTube video. It's not loud, according to what people are saying, but inside the description, there's some links. And I'll share some links before the end of the show. Actually, I'm sure somebody's going to share a link anyway. But what I've done, like a sliding under the door with it, because it took so long. Do you know that I have spent years with stuff like this? Like this chart, you see how old it is. It's like old and dusty. It's like a perfect example of how many nights we spent. Let me bring this closer. There we go. How many nights we've spent working with planetary correspondences, chakra correspondences, in song or deity correspondences, number correspondences, age correspondences. And this is like night after night of furious work trying to find some kind of connections within what we are doing here, page after page. And of course, this is just like the big charts. Like when we're talking about the small stuff and the notes and the continue, like I just need that much space to keep writing things down. What am I looking for? It's like an alien on the planet searching for something sometimes, I feel like. What am I looking for? The blueprints. I'm looking for, how do I get in the groove of what's happening here? And today I had the eureka. Today, and it's been going on actually for the last 2 to 3 days, there's been a consistent Because mainly today, though, I realize why it's been so hard for me to unify the system, because I even had to do semester 2 without completely having the solution that I was looking for. Like, I was looking for a specific solution to deliver in relation to correspondences of celestial mechanics. And unfortunately, I was baffled at what I was presented with, meaning that when asking occultists what was some information that we could agree on about chakras and colors and frequencies and entities and all that, I only found what I find in the New Age community sometimes. Lots of dissension, lots of thinking one is aware, but still basically vainly reciting, meaning repeating what someone else has said or has done and not actually checking where did that even come from and why does that even connect? And because there is so much of this information out there, I mean, people are creating new charts daily, proliferating buffoonery in high definition is what's happening, because when you look at these charts, they don't match. They're not correct. Why? There's at minimum, two different systems. This is why there's a great marriage. The spirit is all in the soul, or excuse me, the soul, the spirit and the flesh. Let's use those two today, okay? The spirit and the flesh. I'm going to need 2 batteries here in a moment, but I'll take a break in just a second. But the spirit and the flesh don't get along. They don't. They're nothing alike. It's like male and female. Somehow they're together, but they don't get along. They need each other to somehow keep something going on, or what is it? That is the relationship between spirit and flesh. And then what happens is that you got spirit and flesh infused together. This is what our existence is. 2 total opposites are now in a relationship infused together in a marriage. So what happens is that the magic that created that, because, sometimes says, you might say, Mom, so what attracted you to Dad, girl? Boy, that magic. He just had that magic in his eye. That magic, okay, what that is about realizing that not only do opposites attract, but you have an entire system going on here of, like I told you before, yin yang, 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 to create a perpetual machination, a projector of slides of memories, of all the illusions that still are in the play together, acting out their scripts before they decide to become original. Okay? Like, look how it works. Look how every single thing, even now that we're playing around with in the reality, hints to what I'm telling you right now. Like I told you about computers, the CPU, the processor, the memories, the control points, the circuits, the stars, the sun, right? Processing in the cloud, processing the clouds or the thoughts or the ideas that everything is having inside of the mainframe, right? So this is how that all connects, because at some point in the unknown nothingness, something concocted whatever to begin to bring things from the nothing to the something. And that process is what we're witnessing right now in our existence, but also even more closely with things like this calendar that I have on the screen. And not only, and I'm gonna share that, not only did that happen one time, but I can give you now 2 times that it happened, okay? And this is why things are so confusing now. When I say 2 times, it's because you have a clock, if you may, for your spirit, and you have a clock for your flesh. And now, because the flesh is so entwined, you also can't almost differentiate the 2, but you have a clock for the fake matrix. See, that's what's happened. The flesh side, which belongs to nature, that ran on a natural clock, has been pulled into a high level of mysticism and is now being operated by an entirely different clock. And let me show you. This is why there's so much confusion. Now, the natural clock, which I detail here, And this is from the compilation of years of research, because I've actually had to put devices together that do work and do things, but based on a universal system. So when working with that same system, but still unifying it even more, because I'm going to do elaborate work on this. Like if I know the element, because like, for instance, with mercury, you can't even handle mercury. You can suspend it. Like there's some suspended mercury in different places, and that works for the essence. But even still, to just have it around, it's, you know, it's mercury. But mercury also, because it's on the periodic table, has a connection with another element, because that's how the periodic table is put together. So it's then easy to find all the elements of a specific day when you already have one element, if that element is accurate. You see what I mean? And so what I did was I spent a lot of time in putting together accuracies. In fact, let me see if that's there. No, it's not. Anyway, it's not important. It's just a process of how long it takes to do something like this. And I just lapsed it just to see how many hours go by as you're throwing all these different things around that everybody's just saying works and this and works. And then you're dealing with your own knowledge. Like I got a lot of awareness of occultism. So at this point, some stuff is just a no-brainer. Some things become a bit hazy. And then all of a sudden it just clicks together. Again, one eureka is to realize there is no unified system completely between the body and the spirit, because they're off. It's the same thing it's the same thing you come into the realization of when you're trying to find out why is there a conflict between these two poles. They both need each other. So why are they fighting? They actually need each other to actually have the conflict to generate energy. What kind of madness is that? That's the mechanation. Okay? And because of that force, though, in the realization of that force, it gets you into the awareness that force, that there's natures, like I said, and when you're looking at natures, this is how natures works, okay? So you see here the secret energy calendar. And by the way, I was going to put all these calendars in, and you can toggle them on and toggle them off. Like with the calendar here, if you notice, I can toggle off. Oops. Oh, boy. Oh, that caused me to lose my screen, I think. Yeah, just give me 1 second. I just, just give me 1 quick second. I have to actually, to get my screen back. If I drag something up a little bit too far, it goes into another screen that's not on. Also, you could take a moment and just digest what's being said. It's quite a bit. Or maybe for some, it's nothing. Like maybe for some, it's like, yeah, I knew this already. You know, at this point for me, it's like, you just see why. You see why with so many things. You see why life can be so stressful. You see why, you know, the more you love something, the more it seems to become more of a problem for you. Like if you love something really strong and it dies, you know, now you want to know where it's gone. It creates a lot of sadness and grief. You know, you love people, you really want to care, you care for them. It only puts you into the position of having to let them go at a certain point, like your pets, you know, all those different things. That this is all tied into that. This is why all of that's taking place. Just trying to get my screen here together. Just give me a quick moment. Yeah, that's what I need to do. I just need to take this screen. So I wouldn't bring a problem also without a solution. So I've already put the solution into play. I've seen why it's the solution. I see how the solution can be improvised. I see how that we all can connect together on this endeavor of figuring out who we are. And we have now enough tools that people can also contribute to where it's not just one person or a few people just doing something that really could benefit from a lot of people joining in and doing it. Even these calendars, now we have in these calendars, these group invites. And I'm assuming at this point that my screen is back on. Actually, let me do it again. So with these calendars now, anyone can now add an event, and we can approve that event on our end once it's added. Anyone can ping this calendar, like they can add it to their own calendar with the iCal and the RSS. Let me blow this up a little bit because I know it's like super small because we're using a widescreen. I guess I went too big. But at least allow me to show another part. Also, this will be linked accordingly. I'm trying to actually take back over the calendar URL. So it's just /calendar, but that's actually designated by another program that's installed on the website. So anyway, inside this calendar, you see how you can toggle on and off different areas. So if I wanted to just see what's going on in ambassador training, as an ambassador, I would just toggle all those areas off. And as you see, this Saturday coming up, me and Haru are getting together and we're going to be doing that resonator class on creating those spheres. So that's next Saturday. You should have your mold and everything in by then. Like we even found some that even if you haven't ordered them yet, they should get there within 3 days. It's just the spheric molds. And then we have that intention concentration honoring, which is on the 11th. That's the process of us now burying those seeds that we're going to be using in the projector. So that's happening on that date. And then I'm going to, of course, embed this into the app. So you'll just have this every day when you wake up. You'll know what to wear and how to be on track. But notice how this is like the big view. If we squeeze this in, which is the mobile view, all you see is you just see, like, obviously today, this is the 29th. So you already see your chakra, you see your crystal, you see your frequency, you see your herb, you see your metal, you see your color. And that's kind of like what we need, right? It's like every day, if I got to swap out between colors and different things, like I may be trying to take care of the kids. I may be, in one of my moods, doing my thing, whatever. I need something I can just say, okay, while I'm in the closet, just see the colors. Now, how did this information come about? Because there are going to be some people with some conflicting information, but there is no conflict. I would ask those people first, did you realize that there's actually one body laid over the top of another body? And they may say, I don't know, depends on what they say. Maybe they know even that there's a hexagram laid over the top of the hexagon or pentagon or whatever. Like they may try to say, yeah, we know that. But it's just that you're dealing with two different kind of bodies. And the reason what I've created in my chart is a perfect marriage. I make sure that the chakras and the physical body, along with the fake matrix program, gets all the codes that it needs to have the best day. That's as easy as I can put it. Because like I said, the physical body has been living in the fake matrix for now, however old you are. For me, it's been almost 40 years. So the physical body actually doesn't really know as much anymore about nature's laws and rules as it does about the fake matrix's expression of those same laws and rules. Now, it still has its instincts, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean? Like if you can look at many indigenous cultures and see how they conduct their lives daily, and then look at the standard United, this whether they're coming from the UK or whether they're coming from the US, person's lifestyle, and then start pairing those up astronomically. When you start using occult integers, you start seeing, whoa, these people are like on this system, and these people are more like this system. So let me explain where that occult system comes from. And then today's conversation is not a very long one. We're going to talk about some things. Wednesday, we're actually going to get into placing our patterns on the projectors. It's just a short class. And then in between time, we're going to be polishing in even deeper onto these grooves so we can get a global meditation happening with our groups, and that we can start to also get in the same course together so we can keep getting stronger and expanding in this process and not making it more complex for ourselves because we may be swimming upriver without a paddle. So let me show you what happened. So when the new system came along, it was because these different occultists, kings, you name it, they had cracked it. Somehow in looking into nature and music, and that's why Pythagoras had a lot to do with it. As you see, Apollo, who's the Greek sun god, is sitting up here, but he's actually sitting on top of what would be really your chakra centers in this image. This is what this image is. It's an occult version of the chakra centers. What are we going to call it? Let's say the template, the glove that's used to control the human soul through the chakra center body consciousness, okay? So in some of these pictures, what you see is just indicators like the music, which is the frequency, the three sisters, which is Luna, the moon, the power of the birth, the regeneration, the sustaining, the mistress, the maiden, the crone, those steps. You see even the Apollo again holding in his hand an actual musical instrument to show you this is about tones, this is about frequencies, right? And then you see a lot of the same motifs that you would see in some of the more ancient cultures, like the lotuses and this kind of things that show you reproductive symbols. But again, you really get them stylizing this as actual kings in the world. Look here, Saturn as a king, Jupiter as a king. Now, this is because they're laying over their own system on the top of a planetary system. And this is why there's so much confusion, because a lot of people reckon these entities as actual physical people, when really what you had is more learned men and maybe sometimes bloodline angelic connections actually masquerading around Earth as being the originals. And that's all I can just put it as, because now that you really know what the original is, you realize that the moment that someone starts dividing it into something is the moment that they're not original. That's how it works. So still though, in the division, there is power, and this is basically the power of that kingdom. So when that kingdom was brought to Earth, which is what you're seeing here, is some of the last imagery of how that system, and let's just make these big so everybody can see the connection, how a system that shows you why it becomes so difficult to connect these modern systems. Like when you say, well, what chakra is each day of the week? It should be Monday to Friday, right? And then, or Monday to Sunday. And then from that, we should be able to then line up all the chakras like according to the tones, right? Like the days in the week are in the order, the chakras are in order, the tones are in order, right? No, that's not how it works. Why? That would be the big question. Why change the order from nature to something else? Well, all I could say is it probably would lead to a big mix-up, but you would have to get yourself out of it before you realize that. So how to untie the knot is what we're talking about here. The unbreakable knot, as they call it. Notice how the moon, and this is like, these pictures were already small, by the way. So if you're thinking the resolution is bad, it's just because the resolution was never good to begin with. And it's also because these charts, let me explain, I've had to compile so many different charts over years and years, but to finally see when going over things again, bingo, we got something, we got a match. And what you're looking at here is, and let me move me out of the way, is notice how right here in the beginning, which is the root, it begins with the moon. Then it goes to Mercury, then it goes to Venus, then it goes to the sun, and then it goes to Mars, then Jupiter, and then Saturn. And literally demarking that Saturn, the celestial sphere, is basically the last stop in the crown or the third eye of this particular template that they're using. Then we look over here, which is coming from another system, and we find that they bear witness. That Saturn, see, they have the stars up here, but Saturn, then Jupiter, then Mars, then the sun, which some people just automatically put the sun at the top, because like, it's the sun. Venus, then Mercury, then the moon, okay? And this step, or you see, this is the entered apprentice leaving purgatory, which is basically the land of limbo, nothingness, a fool, knowing not where they are, walking up the stairs and reaching the first level, which is the Lord or the King, the one who has been brought down, okay? So the first step on the ladder. But notice it's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the big issue here. Hello. Next is we also have, let me see, where's my other chart? Yes. Another system, okay, stylized differently, but still bearing witness. Now, these are occultists because you can tell their symbolism, but they're coming from different parts of the world. There is a one world brotherhood. Like I told you, the priest of Amen, much of what people are seeing around them now are coming from the priests of Amen, but the priests of Amen weren't the only brotherhood and sisterhoods. Like the priests of Amen were the ones who were hiding the king, because that's why Amen means the hidden. Amen means the hidden God. Amin-Ra means the hidden god Ra. So it actually says who the hidden god is. The priests of Amen, their hidden god was the king, as the term Boule means an advisor to the king. So the king is the one remaining hidden. Just simply saying that it's either awareness of people right now that who they're calling God was actually a man. And that man was a king. And because of the stature and the awareness of them knowing who they are and the connections within nature, they were capable of deifying themselves. As it says, Caesar deified himself, meaning he became a god amongst men. The only way you can do that is to basically hide the knowledge that everybody else is also or can be at that same magnitude. But let us keep going. Now we see the confirmation that the moon is actually considered in the lower chakra center, while many charts put the moon as the third eye. This becomes where somebody else is like, namaste, sister. I just think the moon should be here. I'm just so tired of the man being up here. And it's like, Sister Betty, no. And it's too late. Now we got one chart with the moon on the third eye. So then what happens? I guess, the whole tower would fall down if it's not built properly. So again, in this case, though, you just can't unlock it. You can't unlock the body without the actual keys here that they put together of the construct that they built over the top of the natural construct that we use. Okay, deep stuff, man. Like when I was coming across this, I was like, oh my goodness, this is no wonder why there's so much tension. Like I feel like there's so much tension when I'm walking through the reality. Like I see everything because it's like it's looking at me or something. It's like a lot of tension. It's like I'm trying to figure out. It's like, am I hot or something? Like, what's up? Like, do I know? Are we in the know? Did we crack through something? And this is like, it's only a matter of time. Imagine what's going to happen next, right? With this awareness. So we go forward because this is long overdue. I would love for my favorite spiritual teacher to just come in here and just take this apart for me. But look at this now. We know from these kind of charts, which we pulled, and we couldn't find many more like this, but that every single part of the human body, when it comes to how nature put it together, and those beings that exist within there, which is wild, that they use different parts of everything. And some of this you can't even, some of this is vegetables, some of this is other animals, some of this is like gourds and different things, all to put together these pieces to create this particular template, this operator in the physical plane. So that's why I'm saying the first stage was really creating the ability to be here. And then the system got hacked. And this is the hacking of the system. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about this. I don't want people to think, something, I don't want them to go into doomsday. In fact, this should be the time you celebrate. So moving forward, like I said, look at this, just so you get it. Now there's other systems. And this is why there's some Sumerians running around. And I told you, is it wrong to think that the people from Samaria are just some Aryans, right? And then the word Aryan actually doesn't refer to some Nazi either. And the interesting part is that even in the last dynasties of the place that we call Kemet, all of those pharaohs, which is the names that they were giving themselves, even though they were of darker skin tone, were aspiring to be like Sumerians. They were actually wearing false beards. Actually, at the end of the whole thing, everybody wanted to be a Sumerian. Even in the Hindu text, Brahma is the Sumerian Brahm. So the big beard, just notice the beard. So at a certain point, some beings came in and actually really did change the entire cycle. And it does seem to connect a little bit with the Anunnaki stories and the flood and the Gilgamesh and all of this, but it could be just straight up. There's some manipulation. Even in this manipulation alone, which is Sumerian, they don't even have the moon as the lowest heaven. They have it as the highest. Then Mercury, then Venus, then the sun, then Mars, then Jupiter. But so the only thing here that's swapped out is Saturn is on the bottom and and the moon is on the top. Now, I can't tell you just what that ensues like in this reality right now, like how many race wars are caused because of just that switcheroo on who's on top. Like I told you, the fighting brothers, Nanar Sin. Again, look, the word for the moon, actually it's not on this chart, but the name for the moon in Sumerian is Sin. So you basically find, after you look through all this stuff, even we have now the proper correspondences for the crystals for the days. We have now the actual time of year to use the right crystal. Like if we wanted to get even wax even stronger during that time, let's say sometimes you're like, okay, should it be the amethyst? Should it be this? There's even seasons specifically where certain crystals are more powerful. Why? Because crystals grow just like plants do, and they're more fertile during certain times than they are of others. So when you have those crystals, the resonance increases. So the reason why this is so important for me to bring this now is because I feel like that Earth is at the transition point, that this is it. Like nothing happens from here unless we make it happen. And when we start looking at the right things directly and just put the work in, because that's all I'm about at this point, I just put the work in. It's like, I really find myself like just putting the work in, and I'm seeing the results and saying, yo, you should have put that work in a long time ago though. You need to know what every single day does. You need to know how to move with the powers. And also you have to augment, like you can create things, like create a gauntlet for yourself for that particular day. Create, you know, some get some earrings that you use for that, but still realize that this is no hocus pocus. You'll realize right off the connection. Like even within this new calendar that has been created, and I won't say it's new. What I'll say is that it's been harmonized, because it's bringing in the aspects of what has gone on and what is going on now, which I find so many people just lost about. Like meaning trying to put together both of these two worlds, which you could see why. It's two totally different worlds and how they balance, but still they look good together. Watch this. Notice how when you now think of the colors, and let's say for instance, this is Saturday, okay? Black goes with violet, okay? Green goes with yellow, orange goes with brown, red is even now with blue. So there's something about, now I didn't just come up with this after like, oh, let's do this. I went across several charts, 10, 15 different charts. Also my own experience, what I know, like what happened during certain times that I could clearly tell there was some Venusian energy around. Like when the lady kept referring to Orion, or the brown obsidian ball seemed to be the best thing to grab and look into the future when there seemed to be some kind of Saturnalian presence around. Like all those different moments, and remember, oh, okay, these two must connect then. And then remembering that, okay, but it's not just one body we're talking about here. There's another body that is actually in play because they're married to each other. So let's make sure that they both get something, not that one is getting more than the other, or one is getting everything and the other is getting nothing. Let's put it in balance. So with that being said, 7 Raw is launching on Monday, which is a series of videos that consistently come out that are shot, hopefully with better volume than the recent one, in a very fast way to keep everyone connected and in awareness of what is going on and what we are doing. And also the knowledge and the information as it continues to move through. Also processing these queries. Like there's going to be questions, especially as we keep rolling through this, we're going to come to see that this ain't no joker. And as I build this in more, you will see everything. It's like when you need the tone and the frequency, just click the button. Click the button thing, immediately download to the phone. I'll even have an ultrasonic version that nobody can hear. And that you just ride with and play it all day. I just ordered personally quite a few herbs, like not just like, you know, your henbane and all that kind of stuff that you would see at your local markets or even your Wicca stores. There are specific resins, because you got to remember the resins are like some of the most powerful aspects of dialing in and out frequencies. But when I have these resins in front of me, it's going to be easy for me to determine what kind of calibrations, okay? Because look, so we used to be big, right? Like physically big, right? But and this was through the potions, because the potions changed the proportions, okay? Potions and proportions. Let's take these two words, right? So we harken back into this time where it seems like, according to all the drawings and a lot of stuff that they're unbearing, and of course my guy, phenomenal travel videos in India, continue, like a lot of this that's going on. They can't even cover it up in India. It's just still too fresh. And then if the impact is still there, meaning the larger human beings that have all these powers that are running with the cosmos, they done drunk the potions and become bigger like Mario, right? Like you think it's a game, but the right kind of potion, the right kind of formula can have an otherwise small, petty being on some phenomenal cosmic stuff if they get their potion and their alchemy right, right? Hasn't anyone experienced one of these substances where all of a sudden it's a little doop doop and then rah, oh, oh my goodness, and you're like, shit, I'm a god. Now no, I can tell me God, but eventually it just comes down as they start pissing you off and they tell you you're lying and that everybody goes through that. And I did too, so did I. I experienced that same thing. And they start really kicking you off your buzz, off your resonance. Now now you're back to the normal vibe. But did you not witness with that potion that everything became different? So, of course, there's not just one potion. In fact, when's the last time, like, where's the exploration even at? Like, they're acting like they're doing something and they're actually getting across with this. I mean, this reality, this fake matrix, this glove they built, their power glove, literally can have us illusionarily thinking that we're getting somewhere and doing something when nothing is really going on. And then the more you become woke, as they call it, the more you start realizing, actually, this looks pretty redundant. For us to get something new out of this, then, we need to actually start asking the real questions. And also, instead of turning everything down, no, I don't want that. That's not a part of me. Namaste. That's wickedness. Maybe we start looking in that to actually see, is there some images of us actually in there? It's like, oh shit, there's you in the wickedness. Turn the page. It's like, start realizing, the judge game only has everybody with a big misconception about what's actually happening here. And then when we start looking truly into this, look into yourself, you start seeing, hey, there's different me's. Why? There's at least a jumper and a catcher. There's at least someone talking and someone listening. Like they always say, hey, if you're talking and, in your mind, if you're talking, who the hell is listening? Like, is there two aspects going on? Absolutely. And these are the two aspects. And they have something to say. And they both need the same energy. This is what happens in relationships. Two people, they both need the same energy, but where are they going to get it from? This is like, if I need zinc, you need zinc. Where are we getting zinc from? And this is what people are locked into with these two poles, because they think that they need something different because I'm so different. Oh, I'm female, I'm male, I need something different. No, that's the illusion. Actually, everybody needs the same thing. We need connection. We need love. We need to be together. There has to be orgasms. There has to be organism. There has to be some organization actually here. There needs to be some actual order. We need some gold happening here. That's all what the ore is. We need more ores. We need iron now. We need zincs now. We need that stuff, not, here goes another, person come down. Here's a retreat. Okay, retreat, you're running, all right? So then when you're done running, what are you coming back to? People go to these retreats, they get their minds blown out, then they go drop them back off in New York. Then what happens? It's like no support system. No, this is it. It's done. It's over. Time out. In your world, you can make that happen, and somehow you did. I'm just the guy that you enlisted to make that process happen. And that, to me, it doesn't bother me. I feel like that I'm just the acolyte of the flux. I'm the one that people, if they pay, if they love, or whatever they do to reciprocate some kind of energy, for that, I actually go and get the real sleuth work done and find the results and the solutions. And it's happening non-linear because it's not just me, all itself. So again, my mind is very regulated. I don't have a lot of chatter going on, but I hear the voices. Like, I hear the thoughts. I hear other people saying different things. I may not be able to pinpoint exactly who it is, but I know the overall collective vibe of what people think about what we're doing. And it's very positive. It's very harmonic. In fact, it's even enlivened me to come back in this for one more, because I just have to agree. And that actual point just came, there's been a change of guard. Then it was like a week ago, there was the new, let's say the new agreement. It's like, okay, do you want to go to the next level? Do you choose to expand, Mr. Bomar? Are you going to expand? I'll be like, what are the agreements? What are the arrangements? Show me what it is, because I'm into this kind of thing. I'm kind of like a junkie for it. So what is it? And it's like, well, you got to take it to another stage. You got to come into a greater realization. This is it. It's all in front of you right here. Bam. And it'll hit me in the energetic potential of it, the potential. Like when someone says, let's picture the possibilities here. It all comes into focus, and then my mind hits it with the ultimate maxim, which is my ultimate maxim right now. After all is self, it's the highest thought is an action. Let me see you get this in action, my guy. And then I'll go in on this and be like, okay, let's get all these charts and diagrams and stuff then. Because I've been avoiding that for a year. Like, I have it really in my mind. Like, I remember after semester 2, semester 3, I was like, shoot, for semester 3 to start, we would have to make a mess of what the occult did. And I was like, yeesh, you know, serious? I mean, I guess semester 3 ain't going to start then, because we ain't going to be able to do celestial mechanics, because all these people are seem to put Mars where your asshole goes. So I don't know what the truth is anymore. It's like, why is all the system so messed up? Because once it's messed up, once they've made a muck of it, now you don't know where you are. Now we're clearing it out. Now we see clearly, here it is. This is done. Now my buffing to this is now when you click on the chakra, the chakra sacral one, you'll have like all the tools for the chakra sacrals, like color stuff, weird stuff I've made, whatever, it'll all be there. Somebody else made, whatever, it'll be there. When you see that frequency, you click on it, like I said, you'll download that frequency in different formats. You can have it there. And then that way, when we course together, because some may say, well, how do we know it works? How do we know it works, right? Like, that's what somebody want to say. How do I know the truth? I'm going to tell you this. First of all, as long as you got me riding on the team and I believe it works, it's going to do something. But either way, when you get a few more people on this line, which are just also is equally as energetic as I am doing this, then it will connect us. But truthfully, this is actually founded on, I got stuff over here like, because remember, I had to find out anyway to create certain things, but I didn't think it was going to get to this level, to be honest. Like, I thought that, I don't know what I thought. I wasn't thinking. So reality is now is like, okay, this is grounded into something. We build on this from here. We work with this practice of connecting ourselves with the cosmos and getting the fake matrix thing. It's basically like pacifying, or what I would say is hypnotizing a cobra. This is akin to what you're doing. In fact, they kind of show you what you're dealing with here, you know, not to freak anybody out, but this kind of thing is kind of hanging out down there. Old three-headed rebus, you know, big face jackal, or whatever they want to call them these days, like whatever the furious thing that you've created, and all of that energy coursing through your body and all that, you know, got to whip that thing up. Now that dragon that you've been playing around with, it's now got to come to serve you. So this is really the process. This is actually the real course. Actually, I didn't have my screen share on, so I wasn't able to show that. But anyway, on the bottom of this, and let me just make sure I just deliver that information. Let me see where my Zoom is. There it is. Just right here, just remember what we're dealing with here, what we're taming. The reason why they call it a dragon is we're talking about, like, somehow, because this is not just, it's not just tones and scales and frequencies and TVs. Don't get it confused. Meaning that a lot of people may think that, well, this is all something new, so all their technological stuff is what's at play. But actually, that's just like the technological stuff is like redundifying, amplifying, and those kind of things. The process itself is ancient. But what's being used here is this snake, like whatever this means. It could mean light. It could mean knowledge, a certain type of knowledge. It could mean something you enamor yourself with, something that you put around you, like a cloak or a sheath. So it could be symbolic for so many things, but ultimately what it says is that this is the operator. That becomes that eidolon. That becomes what you're trying to get under control. Now, this thing doesn't even have wings, so he automatically got to go in for an upgrade. But this is actually the symbolism in itself, truly replete to how things really are, that somehow spiritually a worm, which is what they call it, because they love to, in the occult, like when I remember, I know all this stuff. I'm not going to tell you that I don't know it. They look at the snake different than the dragon. And they look at the worm different than the snake. They don't get the same reverence because, see, the snake, first of all, has eyes and the worm doesn't. The dragon has wings, but the snake doesn't. So it's a different class. So you can have an entire culture trying to explain something to you in worms, snakes, and dragons. And a person could only be seeing snakes or serpents and completely miss what is the zoomorph. Like on my chart here, and this is not published in yet because I still have to dial in deeper into the zoomorphication. And let me show you here really briefly. Let me turn my, I told you I had to go in today. I keep turning that on. let me just get rid of that because that just looks so much like Zoom's icon. It's like all the icons on the computer look the same now. It's like, y'all ain't gonna be no originals out here on the icon. Y'all just gonna keep copying each other with this blue and white. So anyway, let me just turn this on. There we go. So on this chart, I have a zoomorphification, right? Zoomorphication, what we talked about is in the ancient times that because, you know, they didn't want to work with long paragraphs and sentences to try to explain something that wasn't going to be able to be accomplished by using that anyway, they zoomorphied everything. So when they show you animals, like for instance, let me show you how the animals relate to each other. Also remember, when you're dealing with days, the day rolls into the next. So you actually have a chimera at a certain point. You actually have a hodgepodge between one day and the next. And that's why it makes it so logical. Let me look at my thing here. It makes it logical that we would have these blends going on between the spirit and the flesh, because there's also always that blend happening when things are transitioning. And that's what lineups are, okay? And that brings me to another powerful conception, is that what lineups are, you know, you can line up with somebody. Like you could have this moment where you guys click, especially with the females and the males, right? Or whatever the poles are that you're dealing with. So you can have that lineup, right? And then you click. But then all of a sudden y'all start coming out of line. It's like, well, shit, who did I even meet? You start, things are so out of alignment. It's like, I don't recognize why we're even attracted to each other. And this is because the alignment becomes off. Because everybody has their own clock. Everybody has their own Mayat. And then when those things line up again, though, that's when you call them. Hey, hey, what you doing? And they'd answer too. It's like, nothing. I was thinking about you today. Really? Yeah, I was thinking about you too. I miss you. I miss you too. You know, do you want to get together tonight? Line up. So that's what's happening, okay? Let's stop being the fool here and not realizing and getting this. Playing like children all the time, still trying to realize what the birds and the bees are really about. When the lineups happen, even though beings could be nothing alike, let the lineup happen, and all of a sudden you got Saturn hanging out with Venus. That's Friday and Saturday. Let a lineup happen. You got Mercury even hanging out with Mars, and they totally don't really get along. That's like Loki and Thor. You know what I mean? It's just like you see these personalities and these traits, but sometimes they click. And the power of what I'm showing you is actually how to make them click. If you know certain things need to get happening right now, you already know how to resonate and dial in that frequency. Like one of the terms Halo took from me was dialing it in. I say that quite a bit because sometimes when I need to get stuff together, I'm like, okay, give me a minute. Let me dial it in because I need to bring in the right energy. It's like the focusing on my lens to make sure that I'm crisp and clear about what it is that I need. I don't want something that I need to send back through the projector. Like just try, like that'd be like a woman trying to stuff a baby back in. You just gotta let it run its course. Old pumpkin head. So what happens is you have to get to a point of realizing that you don't want things coming out of the projector that you haven't constructed properly. We jump in these relationships all the time. Now we don't know anything about the person. We don't know what's going on. We're just synchronicity put us together. All right, sound like you're going with the flow. Hanging out at night at the club. I don't know where you're going to end up. You better check it a little bit deeper because this is a bit more going on. Hey, wake up, Alice. They built an entire wonderland around the body. I mean, to me, it's like I could talk about this for the rest of the day only because it's like catching something with the hand in the cookie jar. You can literally see here from this knowledge that there is something else happening. So meaning that there's another field that is being tapped into and is being used. So, as I was mentioning, there's some zoomorphications here. Now, notice how, let me give you a little story. I'm going to give you a story a little bit, as much as I can just right now, just to make some things connect. You don't got to see this, but let me show you. Okay, so Monday, okay, is the moon, right? The zoomorphication is a cat and a rabbit and a wolf. Now, let me show you why. Okay, now, first of all, cats act very strange during the full moon. We have one and he's a little strange. We actually have to lock him up during the full moon because he wants to go and populate, right? Which, like everything else, wants to go populate. But the thing also about the cat is that the cat is actually half snake. As we know, the eyes are convex, so it's not like a actual lion which has circular eyes. It actually has convex eyes. So it's actually a mixture between a feline and a serpent. So that cat will actually tell us probably more about the moon as we understand zoomorphication. But let's say we totally missed it. So let's run to the rabbit. So during the full moon, when Venus is in a certain precession, the rabbit does a strange dance. Like, it's a real thing. It's actually why I believe in Wonderland, they start showing the rabbit doing certain things and why the rabbit's doing the fudder whacking and all this, because rabbits naturally do a strange dance. Don't know what it's about, but it has something to do with the moon, especially when it's in conjunction with Venus. And wolves, do I need any more? I'm telling you, even me myself, and it may have something to do with this beard, but when it gets around full moon time, man, maybe sometimes I feel like maybe y'all need to lock me up, because I just want to do everything. I feel like I have so much energy that I can just literally howl at the moon, right? So that's Monday, right? What a time. Like, already Monday is a big day. But what do they have? Most people at work, you know what I mean? But the thing is that there's a lot of energy coming across Monday. Tuesday comes around. Let's talk about the Scorpion and the Ram. You know, like, that's Mars, right? There we go again, all the fighting and then the stinger and all the protection and what else is going on in there? There's a lot going on. That's all in the sacral, you know? So all of that fire, which is in the sacral, all of that, so the apple, the pentagram, the rose, the ram, the scorpion. So it's like you dial in the energy more in the zoomorphication, like the same thing. Now when we get to Wednesday and we find out the zoomorphication is the ibis, which is supposedly Thoth, and then the serpent, then we start getting Mercury's whole thing. Mercury, you're the one that was like the closest to the sun. You're always trying to be like the sun, because Mercury is always like the Messiah figure. It's always like the Ibis, like Thoth. It's always like the serpent. I know everything, right? And then it's up there. It's up there in the crown sometimes, even thinking that it's up there. And that's all Mercury's whole personality, right? And then you get the peacock, right? That's Jupiter, right? Like, Jupiter has in itself the embodiment of when people start changing genders, by the way, just so you understand, like, the changing genderism is all Jupiterian energy, right? And so that's a peacock as they symbolize it, right? And it's interesting to see that and why that's a symbol in the attitude. Then you get to Venus, right? Venus is like the dove and the fish, right? And that her whole thing, right? Like, Venus, every time she come through, it's always in those kind of motifs. It's soft, it's gentle, and then the rose and all the different things. So you start seeing, okay, we're on to something here, but it's even deeper than most people think. Not the raven, well, then you got the ravens, the crocodiles, but the deeperness and the deepness that I'm telling you about is why you still love Fridays and Saturdays. Like I said, why Friday and Saturday is the big time still on the planet, right? Like, think about Fridays and Saturdays. It's like you get off work, right? And then most of the time you try to get it in on Friday, because you know if you go hard on Friday, you could then like sleep until 5 when you finally come back around again from whatever happened, and still get it in on Sunday. And then maybe you could crawl into, you know, Sunday you get to sleep the whole day, and then finally Monday you go back to work again. So the reason why that is embedded in the culture and the reality is because that Friday is Venus, right? She's this lady's night. Like, she's out. It's about to happen. It's going down. And then Saturn's there with all the bread and all the, and you know, that's the old man with the money. And then it's like, in that connection, this is going to be a great night. And then when Sunday comes around, though, that everybody's in regret about what happens. And then now it's time to get back to work on Monday. And these energies really function like that. Now, they had it down to, like, they have the Kemetan deities, you know, and Aset rolled through. They have the Sumerian deities. Here come Nanar with that shit again. You know, it's all right there. And it's just, we think things have changed, but they really have not. And it's like, it doesn't even really look that better. Like, most of our past was like sitting in domes, you know, like I said, with incense burning, embroidery, rugs. Everybody knew who they were. Like, somebody asked me the question the other day about polygamy. They're like, do you think polygamy was real? They love to set me up with these conversations. What do you think about polygamy? Since Nature Boy was running around Costa Rica. I was like, look, I don't got nothing to do with anything that they're about. I didn't even pick up the phone because I'm sure the fair's on them. So the reality is, the truth is, look in nature. Nature, all high-end mammals don't have one mate. They don't. Why? I started thinking, why? Why do all high-end mammals not have a mate? They have multiple mates. Even the lioness can actually be pregnant by several lion males and have different cubs in the same litter. Why? There's something beeping over there. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I may check it out in a moment. Seems like something may be running out of its life or its batteries or whatever. Give it a moment. So anyway, Geez, I got to actually remember what I was saying. Somebody type in the chat about what I was saying, because that was a jewel right there. You got to figure it out. Like, just in the chat box real quick. Just give it to me. What was I talking about? Just to finish it off. Some droid over there is complaining. High-level mammals, exactly. So why? Why do high-level mammals, and this is the question. I won't take a poll because it ain't going to render much good results. Why do high-level mammals have different mates? Well, see, first of all, high-level mammals don't have jealousy, okay? Let's get this straight. Actually, every characteristic that is like somebody's got a character flaw, jealousy, envy, those kind of things, high-level mammals regulate that within their fiefdoms, kingdoms, phylums, all of that, right? But here's the direct reason why. If we're high blood, high species, perfect, at least that's what we believe, we want as many of us as we can get. I'm going to tell you that one more time. When you would look at all of us and we were all just arrayed and we had that perfect seed coming through, it's like, look, you just have the babies. We just keep, because see, in the ancient times and with the ancient mammals, the ones that are hybridized and more advanced, they all know the only beings that are coming out of those wombs are their own kin. This is why there's like this taboo. I tell you, there's another elephant in the room about in Kemet, right? When Isis is holding her son, that's her husband, right? But then when you try to bring that out in the open, people are like, "Oh, brother, what you saying, brother? You saying that the wife, the mother? Brother, that's the white folks." No, it's not. Actually, they're stealing again. They're taking that from the ancients because that's how it works. You dive back into the same room you come out of. This was actually the physical one was woman's way of getting back in and out of the reality. The atomic one is actually what we would say is man's, what's behind man's eyes. That's its way of doing that same thing. And it has a tendency to be self-contained. It has a tendency to be hermaphroditic and not actually use an external womb to birth things out into the physical world. But still notice then this brings a trait, because the feminine would then, she's enamored by the external experience. So she actually, to bring a child out, it's like, oh my. Like, I'm sure you're only getting a fraction of it right now with what's going on with women and children. And it's still very strong in most women that still love their children. But they're still only an image of an image of an image. Imagine what she felt for that first child. And I'm enamored. Let's like, look at me, because that's what's happening. And that's why I think Wendy, she had wrote it and she had edited some stuff in the time. But she said, hey, sometimes even a woman in what she thinks is selflessness is actually in an ultra selfishness, because she needs to, this is her, it's mine, Neo. This is smothering. I'm not letting this go nowhere. You ain't go nowhere. You should be mine. That's the reality, okay? So we need to get why there's a dome, why there will be protection, why there will be all of that, and start nailing that in, and let that be your sci-fi. Let that be your cartoon. Let that be your movie on Saturday and Sunday. And by all means, we have a plan to do that. So let's reel it back in now. Let's reel it in. I didn't say I wanted to do semester 3 all the day on the phone, but I do want you to realize the power in this and the awareness of this and what we've actually reached, because the truth is that this is all that's really necessary. You would think you would run all around the entire earth to get to this eventually, and that's kind of how it is sometimes. No matter how far you run in a direction, you're only going to run into a circle. So here we are back with the originals. That's why it begins with an O. And really, really bringing this one more time about what exactly we're involved in here, and getting some extra pointers about what may have been missed. So to summarize, 1, there are at least, the only ones you need to focus on right now, because the human body and all the rest of them are high maintenance, especially some of the female characteristics. So the truth is that you just need to be aware of 2. That is the flesh. And it's so connected to the fake matrix, you can no longer distinguish the 2 for most people. So just roll with that until you can start breaking that chrysalis or that shell, actually is what it is, from off of that organism. And then you have the spirit, which is always free, which is always like, the spirit's crazy because it's not bothered by all this. It's not anything. it's just like, in that respect, it could never be defined by the flesh. We're still trying to do it. So the whole process is quite interesting. But the truth is that now when we have these two, we know what they prefer. We know where the connection is, because see, still the ancestors connected the real natural nature flesh to a real soul spirit. That's their power. Now connecting the flesh to a fake matrix, now they're cheating, they're running around with all of the, we've done it, Rexus, Rebus, Cinemus, Maximus Opus Grandis. They over here doing that. They think they like, we're here. And that's actually what they're doing, but because they built an attachment to the flesh, and then because they know the flesh is attached to the spirit, and then it goes on down the line. So they have yet to even completely explore what the full potential is of what they've wrought. I would just as soon as exit stage left before they really start catching wind within their own subgroups, where they're compartmentalized still right now, that they actually have the knowledge of how to take everything into or out, into something or out of play. And what I mean by that is that notice how then all I'm explaining to you goes on in your body every single day. It goes on in the sexual relationships that people have. That's all I'm taking that and I'm putting it into its proper place, and that's all I'm bringing to you, right? But you still have learned men and women in institutions who don't know anything about that connection at all. They're still chiseling away at a bit and a byte, okay? A bit and a byte. That's the computer world. A bit, which is the thing in the mouth of a horse, you know, like a computer, a keyboard. You see this? This is a dangerous tool. It connects both sides of your brain. It connects both hands. You can't write with both hands, but you can keyboard with both of them. You get the magic going on here? Or did you see they bit off the apple? So the reality is that the bits in the bytes, it's like you can't get the whole thing. They're going to give you a byte. Most of this shit doesn't even work. We got to buy so much to get this huge erected mainframe, and it's still having trouble downloading videos. So it's a bit. It's not the whole thing. So those people who work in bits and bytes, which are also very intelligent people, even the ones who work with the silicone and all that, they contain knowledge of how to get themselves into an entirely different level, and other people, superconductors and scalar machines and all of that. But yet the big missing pieces, they can't see how it connects to them. They're just disconnected. You see? So because of that, if this starts catching on, how that's going to look, I'm not really sure. I'm sure it will be anomalies. I'm sure ripple effects will go beyond the limits. And that's why I was saying Sovereignty 2020 is key, because as I was looking at these calendars and putting all these dates in, since I've now brought myself around to it and see it as so important, I started noticing that the eclipses stop after 2020. I mean, all these damn eclipses. I could just remember when I was younger that the eclipse was like something so like miraculous and almost never happened. It was like every 70 years. Now it's like an eclipse every day. It's like, why? Is anybody looking at this? It's like nobody's actually even asking anybody. It's like, is we supposed to have no? Of course we have eclipse. We have eclipses all the time. Well, then back in the past, why did they not tell us about eclipse? Because there was no internet. It's the excuse for every damn thing. No, it's just been a profuse amount of eclipses. Why? Well, I'll leave it to everybody else to figure that out. What I know is it just means some stuff's going on. Transitions are happening. Let's get the shams booted up and let's get ready to get to the next phase, because waiting on whoever's who's supposed to be responsible here, since last time I checked it was me, it may not even actually happen, meaning that if we're waiting on something to do something that we were actually supposed to be doing, now that's a hell of a long wait. Have you ever waited for somebody that said they were waiting on you? I was waiting on you. Shit, I was waiting on you. Well, you were supposed to call me. I thought you was going to call me. You were getting nowhere like this. So take the reins. You see this thing. This thing is a machination in itself. It's been built. It has quite a few different abilities, meaning that the actual glove, it back into their reality. So money, how that works, fortune, beauty, vanities, all those different things are all connected in that same power glove. So I just believe everybody here is at the stage now where you're realizing how much more sovereignty is important than a bag of makeup. Like that, how much more sovereignty is absolutely more important than controlling somebody else and taking them along on the journey and have them using the bathroom in your ship. think about it. It's like, yo, self-sustain yourself already. We're like looking at other people, expecting so many different things from them. And then all you get from them is like crap sometime. Already get yourself together. And then what happens? What happens is the same laws, same rules in which everything got together in the first place start actually working for you now. Since that's all they did in the first place, everything works for you. And so because of that, what happens is it all starts lining up. Everything just starts happening. Just don't be the one to say, I don't know what I did. No, you know what you did. Come back with the knowledge, get the knowledge to other people. It's like, that's the whole issue here. It's like once somebody figures something out, they're like, stealing power. Mine, precious. You know, they want to like patent it. They want to patent it. They want to seal it. They want to secure it. They want to bind it. They want to oath it. They want to contract it. They want to everything. Do. And it's like, well, shit, what is going to happen to it now? You've buried it, basically. Good, you've buried your jewels, Snake. Now you're going to have to figure out where they are when you need them. That's the thing about snake people. They bury shit. Now, think about it again, what I'm saying. Every single person on this line has origins with some serpentine creation, period. If you want to argue about it, then, man, you're in the wrong course. Fess up to it. It's that dark, melanated melatonin part of all your organs that is green naga. And because of that alone, it means that you will get it crunk anyway. And this kind of behavior has to be regulated properly, meaning you got all these elements. You got planets, suns, you got moons, you got, you know, all these different things. You got all these elements, copper, henbangs, you know, all these different things, jasmine, right? But still, you don't have that actually. Most people don't have that. See, because all that I just mentioned, sometimes people have a problem with right now. They got it like, oh man, you know, this and that, but they're not doing any of that anymore. And somehow, meaning that they're not realizing how they connect to all these things and they're not working with their resonance. And this is what I believe personally, no. Because when I stopped doing that myself, things changed. As long as we live in the illusion and we let others dictate to us what's really happening, we never break out and say, you know what, I'm gonna create my own system. This is the beginning. Once we get the first level of this Eidolon thing they've created off, then we can roll into the natural calendar. Right? The natural calendar, it doesn't like, it's not a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday thing. You can't sync it like that. Let me show you what's happening. Because the spirit, and there's some knowledge about this floating around, and I talked about it very briefly, but it's about how the flower of life is not perfect. And how that crystals grow in the perfect lattice, and that the flower of life is off just a little bit, creating this imperfection. It is that same imperfection that doesn't allow spirit to align to flesh properly. So you have to keep readjusting the clock. We call that balance. That's why Ma'at comes into play, because the scales must be balanced. This is like, you know how like they have a 360-degree circle, right? But they have 365 days in the year. So that's already off by 5 days. You have a 1 second. Let me just do this calculation real quick, just so I don't have people just, oh, your numbers. Numbers make me numb. We got 13 times 30. Okay, yeah. Even that's off. Okay, so you got 13 moon calendar, right? 390 days, but you got 29.5 or 28.5 days in a complete lunar cycle. So that's at least only off 0.5. But either way, at the end of the year, or as it's progressing, it's getting slightly off. And that's why I was saying, people, you got to maintain your balance. You got to maintain your communication, your relationships. You got to serve those relationships and maintenance those relationships, because they get off. And if you're not going to go and do the calculation, they're just going to come out of balance. So if it's not something that you want, just leave it, because it will come out of balance and it will fall off. But if it's something that you're trying to maintain and you can see the value in it, you have to constantly adjust to how it's adjusting. If someone is growing or something is growing, you need to now approach it with its growth, not with what it was before. And this is always what happens again when we're staying static inside of these filters and inside of these lenses, and we're actually looking at others to determine what our math is supposed to be, right? So I'm sure you get it by now. I'm sure you understand how this works and how this connects. You have the calendar, so now you can start gripping yourself properly. We're going to start putting the tools in that are necessary. Like most of this stuff is just a download away. When I start creating even augmentations, you will have ones that you can either get from me, or you will have ones that you can create yourself, meaning that I will source that file, that 3D CAD, or whatever it is, because all this I'm about to make modular. Like, this is ridiculous to me to try to maintain something like this in this kind of style. All we need to do is in a different kind of organization. It's like how I get that stimulus that creates that connection with me in that. Since there's like 20 different versions, sometimes 30 different versions, I'm only going to use the one that is the most precise and most effective for me in 2018 and you in 2018. And then have that right there and available, and then we'll see the results, because the proof of wisdom will still be in the type of people that it produces. I never came in this with some kind of fantasy or idea that I needed everybody to support and to help and to love and to push me along to actually get this done. And lo and behold, you guys did that anyway. So that to me that makes me go even more harder into this, and that makes it to where we get real results. So let me look at my notes real quick, because there is some stuff, you know, beyond, you know, just explaining how important it is that we now know about this balance and how we get ourselves into this cosmic groove together, you know, and we should see the results of this. I wouldn't be surprised if people started popping up in each other's dreams like, what's up? And really be vivid with it. Like, I really do know what you said last night. And also the connections between understanding and your reality, the power of when there's other people that are just connected. This is tribe. This is how we would connect in tribe. We have to have the same culture of some sort. We have to have some kind of resonance that really clicks us together. But then also, it's not just something we're creating like Crawley did. Let's just pull it from anywhere and just make sure it doesn't match to the old one, and we'll say we have a new one. No. This is based on the ancients. We can go to nature and find this. I can show you this dark black velvet beetle that looks amazing on Saturday. You see what I mean? It's like just really seeing that connection, and then like seeing it also reflect in your reality. And this is what we'll start sharing more, meaning that when we get to a certain day, it has to bear witness. Or else we move it around. None of this is in stone. Like, I'm not like a stone maker. I'm not Moses coming down with 2 tablets. Like, this is it. This is it. Remember, nobody can get to God except for through me. No, this is not that story. This is about, we tweak this. We talk about, look, this thing seems to be falling out of alignment a little bit, or this is spot on. Look, picture, this is what I ran across today. Look, this is changing this color. I think this connect. And that's how, again, the collaborative tools are now here, because we're all actually connected in the chat boxes. We're also could get somebody else to do the work and put it in if that needs be. We're in good shape. So let me look through my notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. Remember the projector interfaces with the talisman. Now you get what this is about. Now I get it. Sometimes they be pulling me along on the journey. I'm like, come on, what is this about? What is this about? Like, that's how I feel sometimes, because it's like I never know what's going to be down there. It's like, you want to go down door number 1, or you want to see who's down door number 2? And it's like that old show. I'll be like, let's go down door number 2. It's like, you're going to forfeit the car. You're going to forfeit the $1 million. You're going to forfeit the beautiful wife and the house and the kids and everything to see what's behind door number 2. Are you going to go? Let's go, Bob. Let's go. You know, and then it's going to end up being more and enough for everyone, because every time we sit in that, like I said, if we stay still, if we stay in the mode, but if we stay in that picture, like as it's, you know, going through the stuff, you know, the stinky stuff from the film, right? As it's going through there, if we choose to be cast only in that mode, if we get hung up on that line, right, and get dragged down as a slide, and that's all we ever hear from you again, I'll still come get you. But the reality is that this ain't how we should roll. And if we're supposed to be together, and that's the reality of it, if we truly love each other, whatever that actually means, if we have the compassion for one another, then we get in tune with one another. And that's what's coming to me. It's like, just keep putting everybody in tune. Keep coming closer together with them. You will realize it, because you feel it. I feel it. It's in my body. Like when I lay there for a moment, early in the morning, I feel, ooh, I don't know what it is. I don't need to define it. I don't need to give it a name. To have a name for it means you would be able to control it. I don't want to control it. I'm not a control freak. Let her do her thing. So that's how it works. You see, it's like taking all of those components, everything we learn, it must come in service to us now. The cosmos is my parents. They'd be like, hey, son, we gave you a lot. Like, shit, we poured it all, we poured it in. You better. That's how I feel like, because I don't feel like, oh man, I'm doing all that I can. I'm like, man, I hope I make the bar for what y'all done gave me, because I came from a long way. People from where I'm from, they didn't even make it to this point. They're either out of their damn mind. We're talking about even family members coming out of the same womb and damn lost it. Friends, like enemies, like every single person in the whole thing. And then I'm somewhere at the point where I'm starting to see the connection, starting to see the truth. And I would forfeit that just because of my own pride or because of my own ignorance? No way. It's not possible. I don't think anyone in this group would let me do it. I wouldn't let anyone in this group do it. And more than anything, we know that it's also like, this is one thing I want you to realize. This is the crescendo. Actually, the crescendo was earlier. You know what? We always have a backup plan, right? Think about that. Part of living as a being in fear means having a backup plan. Right? I have actually 5 backup plans at least, because I like play chess. So I got different ways to make certain things happen in this world, whether it, hey, don't give me the option number 5. I'll take us all to heaven. But anyway, the truth is, if you really think about it though, why are we always backing up? I'm so tired of living like that. Like, I'm so tired of like trying to figure out like what will happen if we need to do this, then I got this, I have to sell this, and I have to bring this person, I have to, and then if we need, and I just the other day, I'm like, man, why is there always got to be a backup plan? Man, I'm going forward with this. Like, I'm going forward with this, and I know it's going to work, and I don't have no time to keep making backup plans because I'm making forward plans. It's like, I know more backup plans. This is like forward stuff. I'm progressing with this, and we're progressing together. So that's it. So I'm going to take some time, though, to answer some questions. I'm going to do like I always do. I'm going to let it air out. I'm going to put some batteries in this thing. It looked like it's want to give way, but it held up this long. Thank you. Appreciate it. And when we come forward, we're going to answer these questions that are related to anything that was presented here. Let's also look at, so that this won't turn into, so I can kind of cap this just in case somebody wants to jump off the line now that they're filled with joy and they want to go and celebrate. Either that or they got to use the restroom. Let me make sure I cover the last part of the notes, just some updates. Also, like, the platform is like it's on steroids. Like, I'm doing some stuff behind the scenes that it just, the lights just come on and all of a sudden people see it. Like I said the other day on my recording, I think some people think they're supposed to see like some preliminaries before things happen. These are the preliminaries. And if you think that this is dope, wait until you see what happens, because this is only coming first. And what I'm talking about is, obviously we got these unified calendars in. We got a timeline that has now got some pillar points in it. It's at /timeline. I'm even eventually going to be thinking about using the timeline as an ambassador tool, just because you can put links in it, but it means that we have to replicate the timeline. So I'm still working with how to do that and how to buy more licenses just for people who want that kind of thing. But the timeline is very important because it lets people know where we're coming from. It also lets them know where we're going. We project into the future. There's still mindful deaths. I still see companies, Jane, you need to hit mindful deaths tonight because they made me cry last night, and I know really some things are happening in their ear. You know, I want to see this service in the places that really need it. People getting the augmented experience of who they truly are and being able to walk out of those fortresses, okay? So what we're talking about, though, is people got to see that, though. It's like, okay, how does that all lay out? That is where that's how the timeline is being built. And you see we've peppered some pillars in there so far. There's 22 entries inside the timeline just for, actually, Dennis, that's the timeline. If you want to share the link to it, it's /timeline. I know somebody also asked for the calendar too, but also somebody can share the timeline link. That'll be awesome. And just to see what we're doing there. And then I already have 10 pillar shows that we've done over time that I'm going to be sprinkling in there. And then it's just going to keep growing from there. All this stuff we really are sorting by category so people can kind of toggle stuff off. Because, you know, a lot of people feel overwhelmed when they're, you know, when a lot of information is put out to them. So we want to, you know, make sure that there's a way for them to turn off things just so they can see what's there. So we have that going on in the timeline. We also have a big update with the Master Crypto class. Like, I personally believe that the charts are ready to do their thing, that there's just too many greedy minds that won't let the Christmas go by without them trying to see if they can stick their hand in the cookie jar one more time. And this means just that in crypto, there is some things that are going on that are not exactly up and up. And that's why a lot of people are not as turned on as they should be about just what it offers, which in itself, as I will reiterate, and I constantly reiterate from all the time, it is not just the charts that we are interested in with cryptocurrency. We're interested in the technology itself because it gives us the ability to have our own bank. And as long as our money just stays where it is, whether it goes up or down, we don't really care. We can't make it go up. But the truth is, if as long as it stays where it is, if I put $100 in there and I come back and it's $100, that's all I want, especially if that $100 is no longer in the vampire Merovingian's hands. You see what I mean? So it's just some future forward stuff, though. There's a lot going on in the field in development, but we're always early. And also, I really foresee that at the end of 2020, that mindful chain will be that crescendo that takes quite a few people into sovereignty. No, don't quote me. It's just the reality of that everything I have is timed. And now I'm getting into more of a course of how to make sure that I see the results that I'm looking for. And the results that I'm looking for is actually tied into the results that everybody else in this group is looking for also, whether they're aware of what those results are looking like, how that's going to work for them. I like to do the heavy lifting. I'm just one of those people I just like that. You know how some people, they just like doing all the complex equations and shit? Me, nerd in that sense. Like, let me do some heavy lifting, see if I can figure it out. And so what we have is we have the Crypto Masterclass coming, and that means that there's more incentives for ambassadors to do things with the money around cryptocurrency, which there is quite a bit. We're dialing in more metrics, getting landing pages specifically set up so that there's not as many, like, keep creating more and more landing pages. We really want a modular system. You just put in your link, it keeps going. So because we are not completely ready to launch that yet, we're about a month out, more or less, then there's still some fine details that we're dialing in with the masterclass, but just letting you know what's coming. Also, a big major event happening for Secret Energy is actually our keynote speech, which we're going to time around in our calendar where things are really getting crunk up with the energy. But we've done so many different upgrades, and we have a few more that are coming that are very strong, that when those are complete, which will be in about a month here, we have to have a keynote because there's a whole rollout of a new level. Also, we're going to be doing a crowdfunding campaign that actually centers around us creating a DApp and creating a real, it would be a custom app. Okay, so just so you understand, what I'm building now and what I'm doing, I'm like hacking another app. Like, I'm building on top of something that is kind of letting me build, but has limitations. It's kind of like how I built the Resistance in the beginning, before I eventually moved on to something that gave me more capability, like with Secret Energy, which is WordPress. And then if I move on from there, I move to something like Webflow. And that's how technologies change, right? Just one smooth canvas, no blocks, etc. Lots of animations to perfect colors, you know, the various stringed perfect coding, you know, that's Webflow, right? So those are the next phases as far as those kind of technologies. So the next phase for Secret Energy is that we actually have quite a few different technologies that we all want to roll into the palm of the hand. So that way people can actually really be making money, really be connecting with each other, really be waxing strong and powerful. And then while it's all happening, not be so held down because they're actually in a computer, or they're trying to do that from a website, or they're even actually tethered to something. This is really like, it wants you to stay in output. So it only is really giving you the input that's needed to actually go and do more output to get your actions happening, right? So we want to build that. We know that we're going to build that, and we're going to ask for assistance before we build that, just to give others that have been in the network for 10 years the opportunity that if they want to contribute to that, then they can. It is really like that. Some people say that they don't actually have the opportunity to contribute, but they do want to know what they're contributing to, and they want to see the whole thing laid out. And I think that that's perfect, so that people can see, you know, where we're really at with contributions as far as the people participating. And anyway, just bringing us all more and more into a nucleus. And then anytime I get, see, by this group, the reason why I love the ambassador training so much is because I push myself to deliver things at a certain time. So I'm always like, okay, let's get this done, and then you'll see it roll out. And for me also, that helps because I see stuff roll out. So the next thing I want to see roll out is the complete DApp with the mindful integrations, with the incentivizations, et cetera. And what I worked with previous to that right now was unifying this entire network, getting support all in the same place, upgrading all the sites, deprecating things that we don't need to free up resources, installing things that we do need to increase resources, and then also really doing the brain work when it comes to how to get retention higher, how to get people to participate more, how to get ambassadors paid, how to get specialists in the mix, and also working with ambassadors, and all that's coming into play. And so what I've done and what we've done together is we put this into our own projector, if you may. And now it's already manifested through the actions that we're pushing into. The next thing is that now we all want each other's, because you got nucleus stuff, right? Like this is more of like broad. This is broad, unified, like a blanketing spectrum. You got this other stuff in your own nucleus that needs to dial in a little bit more to what you need. So that's the services that we're looking at building. Well, actually, there's a lot of them now, but we're looking at refining those services and bringing them into play. And of course, that means the stores. That means a lot of different things. That's just beautiful stuff. But it all centers into sovereignty. And we also are getting people paid. That's how we're working this. I'm not thinking, how can people work for me? What can I do to get them to make more money for me? That's a turnoff. Literally, you can't be motivated by money. Why? Because when you get a bunch of money, where your motivation gonna come from then, Wardy? Where's it gonna come from then? Like I've been had cash. If it was all about cash, then I should have never came. This is about something bigger. We're going like, I pushed all the chips in. They're like, man, this dude's nuts. You're like, you're gonna get a full house, son. You're gonna win. It's like, that's not something that I'm trying to do right now. This is not all about winning. This is about something, this is about a word we haven't created yet. I don't see in the world what I want to see from it. I don't see in my relationships what I completely want to see from them. That's what this is about. The money thing, now that's you know, they can get that figured out. It's not the most complicated thing. And that's why we talk about the energy and, you know, coursing and building up your energetic centers and understanding where all that comes from. This is now going to give you that extra key, because the stuff that you're going to see on these charts, because my thing is, I want a person to be able to do this from zero, nothing, maybe even in the negatives, because a lot of people are in the negatives. They just don't know it. But from the negatives, like, can I start this course project to get myself off the streets? Can I? I've lived on the streets before. I've been in foster homes before. So would it work for me? Like, and if I could say, yeah, that means that I could put myself back into that mindset and say, what would I need then? How would this need to onboard me? Okay. So that's like, I'll have to start at certain points because that's where everybody is. But there's a lot of things that we're ignoring. That's why actually we only have 7 positions here. In the occult, we know there's hidden planets. That's why the Sephiroth exists. They have hidden planets. But it's like crawling before walking. Let's just get the Eidolon under control and get the, you know how they hold that thing, just to show you another metaphor, you know, with the puppet, they hold that thing like this, right? Everybody nod and say, yeah, do you know that thing that they control Geppetto with? That's what a projector really functions as over the eidolonic body. Just so you understand, it gives you the control to move around the piece. That's why it hangs from the strings and it kind of looks like that. That's what this is about. It's about creating a resonator that ties into this. It's somewhat of an illusionary body, but still, just because it's an illusion, and this is what I was telling people before, just because it's an illusion doesn't mean it's not real. From the definition that we have of real, all we're talking about is just the magnitude of strength and the magnitude of presence and awareness. So original is completely aware. So that's all we're talking about. So let's take a moment. I'll give you 5 minutes. I'm going to turn up the 10 on the camera. Go ahead and replace this battery. I'm going to come forward, then answer some questions, then let everyone get onto their thing. You see the dates. We're going to meet together Wednesday. I will put that on the calendar. It'll be short. I'll show how I'm getting the things fixed. I just got to wait for one of these places to open up on Monday so I can get a certain program that I need to score this material properly. But I'm going to show some examples of how I'm implementing this design. Then me and Heru getting together on the 4th. We're going to show you how to make the resonators. Then your crystals should be arriving somewhere in there. You're going to spend some time. That'll be marked on the calendar. Then we're going to go into the burying of those, which is the planting of the seeds. We'll do that collectively. We'll finish off anchoring the projector properly. So that way, when those things come out, they go right into the projector. And then on the day that they come out, which will be the waxing of the full moon, then, which is actually an eclipse again, then we will keep moving through this. And then also we'll be very conscious of how we're moving through things, because you can also see I've marked all new moons and I've marked all eclipses so far. I've marked some holidays that I feel like that may be significant for us to cross-reference things. And this is how you can dial in a bit more. Because remember, the Jewish calendar is pretty extensive and they do have the truth. They've just hidden it from themselves. Anyway, when you include their holidays, they have quite a bit going on in there. And it seems like they're saying something like there's some coming up. And I looked and I said, because, and this is how you'll be able to start dialing in like, okay, this is definitely, this is like, because red is just like, how many shades of red there are? I guess at least 50. So what happens is because of that, there's like a deeper dialing in that you can do. And there'll probably be more indicators as we keep dialing this in more and more with certain events where we're like, look, it's all happening on the same day. Super Bowl, lunar eclipse, Rosh Hashanah, and they're all going on. Something's happening. Let's do something. Let's do something. And then we'll just schedule our thing. Like we won't be in observance. So I won't be there. I won't be attending. Man, no, I won't be there. We'll be creating and doing our own thing that vibes with the energy, and we'll know what that energy is. So let me just take the break so I can come back. Let's take that moment.
The question that I had more so to do actually with business, and I don't really want to get too far off topic of what you were saying, but I'm trying to get this current going right now, you know, because I need to stabilize myself in this physical reality. And also I want to move out of this space because, like I said, I actually want to I want to come to Costa Rica, and I actually want to build with you because I want to, you know, learn the type of thing. You know, I'm not tech savvy like that. I don't, dude, growing up, I'm like, yo, computers, who gives a fuck? Like anything that I thought, like I was a kid that went to sleep in class and woke up and could answer all the questions. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like I was not the computer kid. Like you wouldn't come to me for computers. I would be reading a book or something. And I stopped reading books once I figured out that you can meditate to know things. And it just went on from there. But like, I see all of this stuff that you're saying and I want to get into that. But the money thing is the most important right now because only the money is actually going to be able to get me to be able to move around unless I get to be able to run like lightning, which I believe is a possible ability. But now we're not going to, you know, do fantasy right now. So I got like jewelry and stuff that I make, you know, and I also do a couple of other things. And I was wondering, because I remember the brother was talking about Facebook and how you can use Facebook as a marketing tool. And so I wanted to actually, if you could remind me of what video that was, what ambassador lecture that was, that he said that in. And also if you have any other things that you can kind of add, like beyond that, so that I can incorporate them into being able to get, you know, online marketing, because I can do the face-to-face thing. But, you know, I would like to broaden my bandwidth, as you would like to say.
Most definitely. Let me put my mic over here so that way it's not a constant noise because I got my headphones on. Okay, so first and foremost, you know, just to go over this very briefly, what I did was, you know, and it can be brief because other than that, it would be a very long topic if I hadn't simplified it again. What we find is that we got a basic situation that's actually happening with the money thing. And if we keep trying to do it like, let's say specifically for everyone, like, okay, let me know about what your uniqueness is. Let's start coaxing that out. Let me see what your product is. What do you feel like you're good at? You know, that process, if we start that first, what happens is that we're kind of skipping other things that may be the problem. Like they talk about the fasciae. They say like even the fascia is even the problem with the back. When people have back problems, the fascia is the problem with, you know, just so many different things, right? That it's not even related to what you think that it's related to. It's the fascia. And maybe if you would just start stretching, maybe that will fix the problems, right? Okay, so that's the story of the fascia. So let's say, for instance, money has that same kind of thing. That if we try to use these traditional methods, well, let me show you how to put it together. Let me show you a good blueprint for a nice startup company. Let me XYZ, stuff that if you could adapt to that way, in retrospect, you wouldn't even need to ask me the question, meaning that most of the time people need to know enough about something before they can even apply it. And if they knew enough about it, then they would already got it underway. So that's why everything has classes, right? Like you start from the beginning, then you don't start off as a marketing guru in the beginning. You start off with just understanding SEO and clicks, right? So because of that, what I decided is instead of boring myself with all those fundamentals, which I still will put into play, there's others that are more proficient at that, like our brother Julian, who has put some classes in, especially some of the early lectures. It will really take going through those lectures, especially from the beginning, to adapt the idea of why it's even necessary to ride trends and to fight ideas in your mind that, you know, you're kind of following behind what everybody else is doing. And, you know, it's just like, it's a whole mental thing that goes on before you can actually unlock yourself into the potential of what can be done with media, right? And you're going to need to know that. So actually, number one, last year would be the best place to start. But even going from there, this is why I bought the projectors in play, because it's almost like when, as a builder or someone who works with tools, or as an architect or anything of that nature where you actually use tools, you sometimes question the tools that you're using. Everybody has some kind of job or craft that they do, and they have a tendency to spend a bit on their tools if they're really into it. They try to find the more sharper knife. They try to find the best machine, et cetera, et cetera. Even in their own range, they will try to find the best of what's in their range if they really are into it, if it's about quality and it's attached to their uniqueness. Now, if it's just about a quick buck, that's not what this conversation is about. We're talking about things that are heartfelt, things that you put your time and intention into. You have a tendency to actually find what is going to be the best for representing you in that aspect. And because of that, that actually puts us into a different scope. That puts us into realizing, and I'm just going to mute your line for a second just so that the audio on this is clear, then I'll unmute when I'm done. So we go into another aspect now, because you still basically have a year and a half left. Now, the interesting thing about time, rather than getting all freaked out that you may only have a year left to actually figure this out, is to realize what a world would be like with no time, and just how lazy people would be. They would just like never get anything done, because after all, there'd be no time. So because of that, it's great to kind of set some barriers in the timeline thing, just as checkpoints to get shit done, milestones. So for me, it's 2020. I see several integers. There's at least 5 very strong integers that I cannot control. They are not under my control. They have to do with the fake matrix and its implementation with AI. That's one of them. It has to do with exactly how much money came out of the fiat world into cryptocurrency. That's another one. And how economies are going to be able to adjust to that. What China is doing behind the wall with why it does provide all of our electronics, all of our supplies. And it always did that, and actually never felt, if we understand China, again, there's a lot of things that are staged like a play, but there's another thing going on in the background. We think that the Chinese were slaved, actually the people were making these electronics, and actually then the Chinese people were not even really awarded for all the electronics that they sold to us. Actually, the Chinese were already in control of all those industries, used promises with our business people, the higher end business people, made promises with them to provide these technologies at a cheap price, to sell those technologies to them, even bicycles, all sorts of technologies. Technologies are not just electronics. Provide these technologies to them, predominantly made out of petroleum, sell it to us for expensive prices, oftentimes hundreds of times more than what it's really worth, and then put us in debt with it, have us working for it. Like basically a comic book could cost, let's say in ink and in paper, about half of a penny, and then sell that comic book for $4. Now that's just $4 to you. But how much is that over half a penny? That's almost like 40,000 times. So when you have that much debt, which is what's going on, that's what I was saying. There's an imbalance happening with this financial energy in the United States, especially because the books are not balanced. We were buying things way more expensive than they were really worth. Don't we kind of do that anyway in life? Even energetically, we kind of devote more energy to things than they really even deserve, right? So because of that, that imbalance that being created, it actually leaves debt passed down generations. This means that now your kids kind of pay for it too, and their kids pay for it. And it's not just like a bill that comes in the mail that we pay for. It's actually the lack of education, the lack of ability, the lack of awareness, like having the, you know, the being weathered, being in more than one place, going to different states, countries, passports, all those different kind of things, boats, like all those different kind of things that allow you to explore different domains, right? So that's how we're paying for it. We don't have those things because we are paying too much to have other things. So with that being said, like, why would I, when trying to put it together, so for a year, which was the first round of ambassador training. There's a lot to take from that. And many people who were already on the ambassador or conscious entrepreneur tip took many of those tools and flew away with them. However, for those who were still kind of having trouble adapting to it, which was 50% of this group, 50% of this group was actually not really capable of adapting to the fake matrix principles that really, fake matrix principles meaning that understanding trends, understanding like even why you would want to do this anyway. Why would you want to make some money anyway? Like some people are just melting down. They're like, shit, I just don't even have anything to do with the system, to be quite honest. And that's kind of like, in my world, that's interversity. That's why I kind of keep that stuff over there. But some people were really coming into this course that had that feeling that, hey, I want to understand what next level of advancement you're going to bring and how you're going to tie this all together. So we cater to that in many tenses, meaning I literally focus on how to do this with people who don't want to jump into certain aspects that you need to be in to really succeed in the fake matrix. Okay. And I would want to see a better success. That's all I'll say. So that's why I came out with the projector. Meaning that when I saw how much the methods that I was introducing over the last year were still being adapted by that 50%, even though I was making it as metaphysic as I could, it still was really low, the adaptability. Meaning like still it boils down to like, maybe my job is not here yet. Meaning that maybe what people really should be doing, there's actually no companies that do that yet. Like, because traditionally you would think that the company needs to pay you a certain amount of money, and that money that you're getting is all they can really pay you. And they're paying you as much as they can for that position. When the fact is they're probably paying you at least 10 times less. So while you're making, let's say $1,000 a month, you should be making $10,000, because that's even what the guy that is owning the company could pay you and still make a lot of money. Because in industry, and this is where knowledge is power. You go into industry. I went into industry because I wanted Fiacqua. I wanted to make my own device. And anything that I jump out into doing, I seem to finally get to it after many bumps and bruises and lessons. But after that, I realized the power in manufacturing, but more importantly, the numbers. And that's why I'm telling you, these people made 1,000, 2,000, even 10,000 times as much on some of the items that they sold us. And they even had a for sale tag on them when we bought them, and they made them still that much. It was a whole psychological game. But what it did, though, is it stretched things so far out with deficit. See, deficit is not just, we owe 6 trillion fake dollars of monopoly money. That's fake deficits. Deficits truly are emotional imbalances. Like, how motivated does it feel to be in debt? Not only as a person, not only as a nation, not only as a country, every single turn you're in debt, right? Debt-based system. How would that make a person feel? Demoralized. So the design is a demoralized system. So how do you defeat something like that? Do you jump back on that same territory, try to motivate this demoralized individual who also there could be 9 different types of? Because remember, we're talking about uniqueness here. Not all the humans are the same. Even in the physical bodies, there's at least 9 archetypes. So because of that, do you think I would want to spend time in actually trying to design very fast, something that we needed right now, a system that was going to cater to 9 different kind of people at minimum? That would be very strenuous, even though I gave it a shot. And actually came up with some stuff, and that's the unified system. That's what actually we'll see later on in just a minute as our gamification, because it handles every single scope of where you would need to go through to develop yourself. But it does it in a choose your own adventure way. So somebody is not telling you where you should go next. It's just wherever you choose to arrive, now you learn everything about what it is like to be there. And when you choose to leave, you will leave with knowing what that space is like. So that's how our system is set up. But that wasn't a system that could make our deadline, because I have a deadline. My deadline is 2020. So if I want to see, because the results I'm seeing from you are the results I'm seeing from myself. It's all intertwined. Like, I'm not dumb anymore. So I know that this is exactly what's happening. So if I'm not seeing a great deal of results in the people that I'm around, or the results that I want to see, because I got high expectations. So that means I got to redesign things. You just got to redesign it, reorganize it. It doesn't mean that it can't be done. It just means it's going to be another design. And that's why sometimes when I jump into something and I already see there's going to be too much not in line and in favor of what is going on, even if I'm trying to do the best for it, I just cancel the plans and I go to another scrap board and I start all over again. I don't lose the idea. I don't stop doing what I was doing. I just scrap whatever the plan was and start with a new one, mostly based on what I learned was not going to work with the previous one. So with that being said, what I felt was not going to work was trying to take extremely spiritually inclined people through the logical, logistic patterns of creating a successful whatever, right? Because it's got to go through the fake matrix. So when I say whatever, your personality could kill your business. Your product can kill your business. Getting bad products from other people can kill your business. Your product supplier getting bad products from other suppliers can kill your business. That's what happened to Samsung just recently. So with that kind of minefield, why would I want to come on those grounds to tango? Can I tango on another level? Absolutely. That's why I created projectors, meaning I brought those back into the awareness of the group, to the tribe, that, hey, for us, we need something that is more of augmenting us metaphysically. If we really want to get a hold of this, because money is still actually a trickle down part of it. It actually is not one of the primary things. It's a reward for accomplishing something. It's not the something. So let's get that very clear. So to get more of what the something is, to understand more of what the something is, you need to see it in a two-dimensional aspect. You need to see it where it actually happens. Basically, you need to see the magic. They call it magic. But when people see it, just like you said it yourself, when I went through the spiritual experience, it just blows you out of the framework. So now it's like nothing is really adaptable. Everything that everybody was talking about before is only making up a small fraction of what exactly just happened. So it makes it inadequate. And because of that, now you got to go to something that is non-conventional, something that is what they would say is unorthodox in their space. And now we kind of get their space a bit more on why that space is unorthodox and why they don't want us to be aware of what that space is, meaning these spaces within spaces. Like I said, they're called layers, right? When you have a space, you have a layer. They come right away with each other. So these layers that have been created are blinding us from the obvious. I'm showing you the obvious today. I like to bring it, like the reason why you're asking these questions is because you're right in front of the solutions. Look at the course. This is basically the calendar. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start rapidly firing in things that you can find anywhere that are free. You can just go to your local park, go get this, go get this, go get this, right? That way there's not really a financial, because nature is the most abundant thing. Look what's happening. Like nature is the most abundant thing. All they're doing. This is why you need to be a creator. Or remember you're a creator, right? You don't need to be a creator. You are already a creator. You create all the time. You got to go back into that stage and stay there, because look what happened. Everything that we have around us, this, this is fine craftsmanship. This is the ring clock, right? So this is like, they went in on this. This guy's even created some kind of disc-shaped battery. And, this is the thing right here. So anyway, but this kind of craftsmanship, the only thing that's happened, and I think this is probably brass, this is probably aluminum, right? And this is some LEDs, I guess the filtration pattern, like all of this is basically about 3 to 4 cents, realistically. The ring clock is probably, I don't know, I guess it's $100. It's like a present, right? So the truth though is that what's happened is I can't make a ring clock. So instead of me going and getting the aluminum, going and getting the Nike batteries, going and get the acids, the alkalines, and putting all that together, I just go spend $100 and go get the ring clock. Fine craftsmanship. See, that's what's happening. Something that actually costs nothing, because we want to see it transformed before we enjoy it, before we learn about it, then we have to pay for that transformation. And I have a video that's coming out on Monday. It's the first raw video. And I connect tolls and trolls and tools to show people just the connection of when you're going down someone's line, that there's going to be a charge. Like when I go down a freeway and there's a toll, I'm going to get charged. I'm going to have to pay that. I don't know where that's going. I don't know all the structure that's set up under that. I don't know why that's even happening. But I also know that most of the time I'm going over a bridge. All of that is occult. When you cross a bridge into another reality, the thing that takes you across, like the guy that's ferrying you on the boat to Styx, needs a token as a form of payment. So that whole thing is actually going on in the reality. So some of the lines that we're crossing, that's why we want to get fiat out of the way. They're charging us too much. It's like, you're charging me that for some petroleum? Are you fucking serious? Man, on Nebula R9, petroleum is free. It's like, you're charging, what? For platinum? Are you serious? Gold? Oh my goodness, gold. You guys are charging for gold? Gold is the same amount in the entire universe all the time. You can't, we just all need a piece of it, and you're going to charge for it? So none of it would make sense as far as how the system is designed. So what you have to do then is you have to learn the power of resonance, because gold has a resonator. Lead could be made to resonate like gold. That's just as anything that may seem unpleasing to you or that you don't want could be given some type of appeal, and you could demand it. This is exactly what they're showing in the society and how it's structured. The mind job that's been going on, the programming that's happening, has people wanting what is killing them. Really. So that shows you the extent of it. So because we have that kind of extent, we have that kind of realm to deal with, we then must get something that encompasses that realm. We must have something that it's not just another suggestion from somebody. It's not just another dogma or theism. It's something that we actually put together off of the principles of how we understand how things work. Meaning you need to know how it's made. That was what was told to me. Like, I know how ring clock's made. I can make ring clock. It wouldn't look nice though, but it would be ring clock nonetheless. It'd be a big ass ring clock, but we would be able to make one. The truth is that even the iron, people don't know how it's really made. The microwave, people don't know how it's really made. So a big part of the sovereignty is learning how you're made, right? You don't got to go wander after, oh, that stuff. If it's your thing, that's my fancy. It's my pleasure. So that's what I do. I love craftsmanship. But if that feels like it's not your vibe and what you're connecting to, it's just seeing the precision within self. And now when you see that precision, because it's got to come from somewhere, you must make the image. Now, because you're powerful, when you make an image of yourself, you'll see just how powerful it really is. You'll see when you move it around how things change. You'll see when you encounter things in the reality that are right there on the thing to let you realize the hyperdimensional aspects of self. Like, I'm hyperdimensional. I talk about stuff and the next year figure out what I'm talking about. Not joking, but serious. I create things like the projector, and then come the next week, which is still backwards to me. The world is backwards. So I come next week with the solution because I had the solution when I was running in the other direction. Why am I even here? I'm here because I have an interest. It was the same reason why I didn't really leave when I kept feeling like, oh, I'm going to leave and I'm going to leave. But my main thing was like, but I know you ain't going to leave without telling everybody about what you know. I mean, what would be the fun in that? So I have a real strong desire to let everyone feel the energy accompanied with what I learned, and not also have to go through so many knocks and bumps and bruises, even though those are going to be necessary. That's like being in the gym and getting sore a little bit, but also really knowing why we can get beat up. Like, what happened? I found myself in times in life where I was in a really bad situation. I had no clue what happened. It was just so disorientating. I was like, man, I just did the best that I could, and I just did everything I could for everybody, and I still ended up here. My first trip to prison was because I was trying to help my roommate take care of his family, and my other roommate from not working as a bagger at Vons when he had a baby on the way. So how do I end up in a bad situation? It's because, hey, there's principalities in the sun. There's a little bit more to it. Then it's not enough to just be a good person. Listen to what I'm saying to you. It is not enough to just be a good person here. You must be balanced. So with that being said, it means that you are in front of what you need. Work with the projector and let that be the way first that you tighten down the realization of how the current is leaking, right? And then the awareness of who you really are, like knowing and the confirmation, right? Like most people that are on this line and have followed the work, and I got to find another name for it, followed the fun, and there was some work in there too, but that have followed the fun really say that the reason why they're connected to it the most is because the things that they were having happen to them, I was talking about it. And so it was the confirmation to feel like that they weren't crazy or that this was really a real thing that gave them the fuel necessary to keep powering through. Well, nothing's changed then. Let us keep going then. And I'm telling you, with this level of vision, because now like my blinders are off. I'm not blinding myself no more to the obvious. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I'm not running. There's nowhere to go. There's no aliens except for me. All the different things that people find scapegoats in, literally, I'm not accepting that. I'm going right with what I have and what's in front of me. And that means the people, as this amplifies, this is continuously amplifying. People are egging me on, literally, like, yo, find something out. And I'm like, yo, I will find this whole thing out. And I will do it so fast and so rapidly and so proficiently. And it will be my pleasure, because that would be the design that you would need to accomplish it. Now, I've seen other old designs. I've seen those who depended on the entire everybody to be involved in it. They went out the first time they got trolled. They couldn't pay that first toll fee. You know, it takes a toll on your own emotion, your energetic current, when somebody tells you you're dumb, you're stupid, you should go away. They steal your stuff. They call you the wrong one, or whatever. That takes tolls unless it has no value. And that's the whole key to this. The Tibetans talk about it. The Buddhists talk about it. Different people have talked about it, but it's just about, are you hearing it the way that you need to hear it? One, know how samsara is really set up. It's a realm within itself that promises misfortune if you get tied into it. Meaning there's a yin and yang here. The more you love something, the more it will hurt you. So you need to either you need to tell it that. Be a man, be a woman, tell it that. The more we're going to get into each other, the more we're going to hurt each other unless we know that. Now we need to design something to where we don't do that. And that's how you start moving in adepthood. That's how adepts work. They know the problems. They're not trying to like sit there and ignore the problem, right? Or put the problem on someone else. Like, hey, fix my problem. You know, you got to work with the same principles everybody is working with when it comes to a cosmic energy. So that way it's no like, there's no brokers fees. You know what I mean? All of these middlemen, evangels, all of that kind of stuff in the pipeline of the energy. Now, what we're doing is we're working together. We got a huge pipeline open. We have a wellspring. What a wellspring is that there's so many things that need to be done with tribe and need to be done. Every time, you know, somebody puts a request in the queue, I'll be like, la-di-di-da, it's in the queue. It will get done because we're going to get it all done. And then the more people that come into it, it's like, hey, process this queue. Like Wendy is just processing a fat ass queue right now. She just got, she went through 150 blogs, and now people are seeing new blogs and they seeing them all tightened down and all that's there. You know, I seen there's people that have been holding it down, and Dave is over there holding it down in crypto. Monica, Wijby, Monica's over there hanging out with life over there, working with kids over here. I mean, Haru's over there, you know, they're still crafting up different things to keep everybody on the level. It's like, it's still representing over there in the motherland. You got other people that are doing different things all over the place, and it's happening. And then it's just about, okay, let's centralize it and dial it in more. The more we have resources, which are not hard to get if we're focused on that, the more we have resources, the more infrastructure we can build. There's no reason to accumulate a bunch of resources and not do anything with it. I only have interest in bringing in billions of dollars to erect the first $1 billion structure that is about the fast forwarding of humanity's consciousness, because we're a bit behind at this point. And doing that and setting that as goal, that's what I would want to achieve. Because imagine, they'd be like, yeah, all the other people, this one did this. You know, there's an anomaly right there. So setting those as your rewards. And also remember, fools rush in. You already have what you need. When you create other variations of it, it only amplifies things. It only reminds things to you. It confirms it. So we create these confirmations. That's why I was saying, you know, in talking to the sun, you know, someone's laughing at me. Real conversation. This did happen. Son's laughing because I'm like, man, I've been pushing so hard for all these different people, man, and it seems like all they're doing is kicking me in the ass. Wait till you see what they're doing to me. They don't even pay attention to me no more, kid. And I'm doing everything up here. Fucking trust me. All that you got down there is my projector. And I'm telling you, as below stars, I mean, I'm talking about Tom Cruise, Bruce Springsteen, those kind of guys are actually getting more airplay, and I'm still hanging out in the sky doing things. So imagine what they got for you. Like, damn, son, that's deep. I guess I can't really complain anymore. You damn right you can't. But there is another level of this, though. See, every morning, you notice how all the things go crazy? Like, all the monkeys go crazy, all the roosters go crazy, all the birds go crazy. Who do you think they're going crazy for? Because that's how we created our system. They give me props. I give them what they need. Now we got a great connection. But everything outside of that loop, they know not. So holler at you. I still got to keep moving through this every day. No sunset for the sun. Love you, son. That's how it happens. That's the only connection. That's all there is really to say. Let me keep going, process these clouds. Nothing new under the sun. I don't really see any new ideas. You see what I mean? This is what's happening. But do you want more? You see what I mean? It's like we want more. We're like in a consumerist stage. So it's like, I need more. I need more of this. And it's like, well, enjoy what you have. Like sometimes when you wake up from a bad nightmare, and if there's somebody next to you that you really care about, maybe that you're even not in good terms with, you still hold them like, oh, shit, I'm glad we still together. Shit. You know, why? Because it's all in our minds. And getting control of these minds, seeing the machinations that have been attached to it, because you got some attachments. Like I've had people tell me, it feels like something attached to me. I even had, when one of my first DMT experience felt like I came out of a cocoon. Like it was like a Gremlins movie, like, what the hell is this? And it's like, hey, all of those years you spent in that stage. So that breaking of those shells, you know, that vibratory frequency, that now narrows down into this calendar. Like in its power, for a person to want more, you only have to give yourself the time now. You need to give yourself time to run the course, to get the gauntlet, to sync this up, to learn this knowledge, really, why these trees connect, why those plants connect, why that color connects, why that tone connects, you know, and then as that connection, like you're already there. You see what I mean? Meaning that just to be in front of this knowledge from this end, because see, our in that is all knowing, it knows it. But this end, the lack of awareness side, to be at it now, it shows us a lot. So I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to leave it time for responses. There's no need for responses. Like I've answered quite a few different questions in this conversation, but it's just understanding, meet us again on the 4th, and we'll be getting together with the resonators. I'll also be talking about how to create this for free. If some people are experiencing some extreme hardships, then we'll talk about how to get these resonators going. You may have to put more energy into it. You may have to be in there like, hi ho, with the log jam, you know, with the saw, and just making your own projector and nailing it in, but make it happen. I never seen not one person in my entire 10 years, a decade of working with consciousness publicly, a person that really, really wanted to get to it, not get it. It was the strangest thing. It really meant actually the people who weren't getting it and were complaining about it didn't really want it. That's what that showed. That's why I don't really like get into the whole feel sorry for people things and all that. I work in different ways. And then, you know, I have compassion, but realistically, you know, really when you get at it, like the whole universe will respond. Like you got to kick that door down. Like I've been in situations before. I was like, look, that's how I ended up learning about the talisman thing. I was like, man, they're going to throw away the key on me. This is ridiculous. 33 years? I didn't even do it. I didn't even do like to that magnitude. You guys are crazy. Let me call God. Somebody's got to figure this shit out, because I'm definitely not going for that. And I swear that's how it happened. I was like, man, I'm not giving up on myself, because you will be in life. See, some people have been defeated in those phases. Like that's why sometimes I watch war flicks, old war flicks, not just documentaries, stuff I can get real footage. Some people shy away from that. I think it makes them negative. It balances out all this positive I'm doing sometimes. I'm like, shit, this is getting too positive for me. Let me watch a war flick and see the real shit. Okay, here's what's happening. And then when you're watching that, and then you're seeing just the whole fucking picture, then you start having the respect. You start having the admiration, all the different things for self. You start realizing, man, this is what you need to reinforce yourself. You're only motivating yourself. Hello, Moto, you got to actually put the wheels in your own motion, right? Because also the same thing I say with money. If people are motivating you, what happens when they give out? And they will give out. Oh, man. I'll tell you one thing about this reality that's so strange. The lesson that accompanies being self-motivated, not depending on others to be your motivation, etc. If it takes spinning you around this planet 10 times, like 10 incarnations, for you to get that lesson, so be it. The parents are like, so be it. For him, because I need to see him, her in that androgynous state. I need to see him or her actually feeling themselves. They can have other things. You can have other beings. They're not saying that you cannot be around others and connect, and everyone's in an orgasm right now, like whether you want it or not. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you breaking down the wall that confines you. We're talking about breaking down what separates the dead from the living. We're talking about why humans in this world don't know that after life is what we should be preparing for. And that is where the party is. And here is the place where we can decorate ourselves with the things that we go into that space with, meaning that the jewels, the chakras, hello, that encrusted, all of that's been designed. Like, this has been mined. Like, you guys think about it. Like, we've mined this. Literally, like, it's all in our minds, all these jewels, right? So then when you look at, okay, micro, macro, we go to other parts of the world, we see them. I see people in mines still right now working. You know, they're pulling out sulfur, they're pulling out aluminum. This is all symbolic. You see what I mean? And then the South, when you check the South of the world out and how the South is so downtrodden, but it's always the foundation. We still need those electronics, damn it. We still need that black coal, damn it. Like, think about even just as simple as this black coal. You light up a piece of black coal and see how hot it gets and how it keeps everybody warm. Like, even the US was all founded on coal. But that's not what everybody wants to talk about, though, right? Miners are dirty, right? You don't want them around, right? So see, this is all symbolic. And so when you start seeing the game and how the game's played, maybe the game starts making you sick. Like a merry-go-round going in circles, like you're saying, man, I was bored. Like, it's just going around over and over again. It's like, man, I'm about to throw up. That's how I would feel if it kept going in circles and I saw in a circle. So I said, I'm ready to get off. And that's how life started for me. So notice how, if that was what really started things for me, that means death is but the beginning right there. Proof. So that's it. I'm going to answer one more question, just to make sure we keep it harmonic. I definitely had a great time. Like, I'm just I'm pretty sure there's no recording of this. I'm pretty sure that Zoom, they're gonna CIA gonna call Zoom, but just get rid of it. To just we need a few more weeks before he drops this. All right, so go ahead with that last question. Whoever wants to come through and say something and ask a question. But I think, was that Hakan on there? Guy, what's up? Man, there's a lot of people on here. Much love to everybody, man. I'm just, scrolling through, man. This is since the beginning. Most of the folks are just riding out. The retention in this tribe is strong. Okay, so let me see. Okay, somebody's not allowed to unmute. They want to say something. So let me read this real quick. Let me take the moment. Okay, so they're saying we're a collective on higher dimension of consciousness, developing an alternative projection plan for our reality on Earth, and would like to employ your uniqueness for the remaining time. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm sure PM me about that. That sounds like a PM. Next. No, I'm joking. I'm just joking, brother. But yes, we are connected and we are collected. So actually, we have some meetings coming up anyway this week with the Writers Council. So I'll leave some more of that unfoldment for there. Okay, so I guess, is that our mission statement, right? In fact, actually, our mission statement's a little bit longer. Let me give you the link. And really, like, these days when people ask me for it, I actually have it these days. Let me just, that is a part of it for sure. Like, I can say 100% that you will go in this and you will find that exactly, but you will also find a bit more, because I felt like, if you haven't seen the Mindful Creed, I felt like there was some things also that I needed to make sure that we detail as we roll into this next phase about what we're really about. So that way it doesn't get twisted, because we can't act like everybody has been riding with us since the beginning. It's no harm, no foul, but I just don't want to be playing around with people when they come in just from nowhere, acting like I feel, I think I need to turn you onto the calendar so you can really discover feelings. So check out the Mindful Creed also, just so if somebody else asks about what are we doing over here, because some people are like, well, what is it? They want you to put it into some words for them. Well, what is it? Here is the Mindful Creed mission statement. This is who we are. This is our sovereign future. Our facts, our figures, our visions, our perfect alignment, our principles, our disciplines, our pillars for the children, our masters of wellness and the alchemy of consciousness, the future, unifying the universe and the mindful company, the reasons for the creed, the integrity, the harmonic and encounters, the descendant, the ambition, and the non-judgment, and the linguistic awareness, and the energetic management, the system, the core principles from the inner tribe, and the vibe, and the contact, and the trust, and universal law, and the inner tribe, and the participants, and the financiers, and the co-creators, and the ground zero, and the point, and the global incentive, the Pachamama, and the pioneers, and the transcenders, and innovators, and the friendly challenges, the mindful virtues, and the legalities, and the mindful counsel, the strategy, the tip of the arrow, the point of convergence. You get it? So I have returned to self. That's it. We are one. So that way, when someone comes and asks, like, what is it, Ray Schmerd, then we are one. Like, I don't know if there's any other one where it's like the Shakespeare. It's like, yeah, you was over there. You was over there. You see the whole play in that? It's like in a minute, like we were one. Like I told David, he was like, pick a username for me. We were working with an account on crypto, and I was like, all right. So I gave him my cryptoverse name, Crypto Meta. And I was like, go ahead and use that, because in the cryptoverse, we're one. So there may be a crypto meta over there. And they're like, well, who is he? Like, I don't know. He wrote all this spiritual crypto work. It was like he was 5 guys, but really one man. So that's what's up. I want to say wholeness and balanced vibrations to everyone. Much love. We did this thing. Again, we got some more to coming in. We'll keep bringing it in, bringing more family involved, saying our honorings, working with our metaphysics, which is all we know. You know, staying in tune, like start being in color and being on point. Like I'm going to start creating some regalia. My folks going to be creating some regalia. That means, get on point with it. Like, have some fun with it. And all of the things that we're going to be creating, like I said, it's not just us creating everything. We're all creators. We are the outlets. We are the BMIs. We are the distributions. We are the empires of what this world had created to make. We are the mayors, right? The ones that bring the shippings and all of that. That's who we are. We're the conductors. We're the bridge. But see, we don't have the same tolls as the trolls. We actually run with free-flowing systems, pure magnetics, quiet stuff. You know what I mean? Only sound you hear is the singing and the dancing from our tribes and our animals and all of the things that are giving thanks to self. So all is self. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I'll be seeing you soon. Wholeness.